What's up, peeps? Welcome to the Up and After podcast. Grab a mug. Let's have a talk.
What do you want? It's too early for visitors.
I then awake as refreshed and recharged as a newborn child, ready to take on the day's challenges.
Welcome to the Up and After podcast. In a galaxy far, far away, we do this podcast weekly with no mess ups. Hi, I'm Chris. And my co-host?
Hi. My name's Riley. I'm here to talk about some movies.
Yeah, what movies are we talking about today, Riley?
We are here to discuss, quite possibly, the most talked about movies on the internet.
Yeah?
That being the Star Wars prequel trilogy.
Woo!
Oh boy.
I'm so excited.
As a disclaimer, I've had this disclaimer ready for a while now, but as a full disclaimer, I'm not going to say anything new here. Everything, as I just said, these are the most talked about movies ever. So everything I'm going to say about these movies has been said before. And I'm mainly here to talk with Chris because Chris is someone who hasn't been impacted by as much prequels discussion as I have.
Yeah.
He has not been to the outer rim of r/prequel memes. He has not watched the multi-hour, longer than the movies themselves, Red Letter Media reviews.
Yeah.
And he has watched these movies for the first time with me so that we can discuss them here. So that is what we're bringing to the table, is a fresh set of eyes and a fresh brain to pick apart these movies.
My disclaimer is, if I do say anything that has been said before, forgive me, but
exactly,
I'm definitely gonna. I feel like I'm definitely gonna say some things that are probably been said numerous times.
And while I'm gonna say stuff that has been said before, the stuff I'm gonna be talking about is the stuff that really stands out to me in my mind because I grew up with these movies, so there's a lot of parts of them that just really stuck with me.
Yeah.
So even though they have been talked about before, they are going to be stuff that is very personal to me. The good and the bad.
And the ugly. Because boy, is there a lot of ugly.
I was gonna say, yep, pretty much.
Let's hop into that first movie, man.
Oh boy, The Phantom Menace. Now I have to ask right out the bat: is The Phantom Menace worse, or is Attack of the Clones worse?
I think if I'm going off of just how I felt personally, I'm gonna say Phantom Menace. But I know I know you will disagree with me there, Riley.
I don't know if I disagree. I've never been able to come up with a permanent answer to this question. I have always just gone back and forth on which one I dislike more. I think I just dislike them for different reasons.
Yeah.
And but they're both bad.
But with recent viewing, is there one that's like, nope, this is it?
Having just watched them both, within the past few weeks, I would say that I think Phantom Menace is the one I would prefer watching less.
That's such a way to word that, but yeah, okay.
And I should probably also say, I can't believe I didn't mention this at the start. I do not think these are good movies. I know there is this big movement of people who love these movies and are trying to, I'm not going to paint them in a negative light, but people who grew up with these movies like me, who really see the good in them, and there is a good in them, and are very ardent defenders of these movies. But I just want to make it clear, I do not think I don't think any of these, even the third one that people generally like, I don't think any of them are good.
Yeah. My issue with the resurgence, if you will, of liking these movies is the fact that it's a resurgence, right? And I haven't seen the sequels, so I've only seen Force Awakens, so I haven't seen the other two. But of course, after the sequels kind of wrapped up, people retroactively went back and was like, "Oh, the prequels are like God's given filmography. Like
it was in waves, even because he was even before
the last
Force
movie,
Awakens
right?
came out. Even before the Force Awakens came out, there was a big surge of people because it was people who grew up with them and are now grown up and able to analyze movies, and they they let their nostalgia talk for them. And then after the next wave was like after the Force Awakens came out, and people who didn't like it went back and compared it to the prequels and said the prequels are so much better. And then after the rise of the Last Jedi, and then after the Rise of Skywalker, especially after the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where I accept that people are very emotionally attached to these movies, and I accept that people enjoy them, and there's a lot that I enjoy about them too. I watched these at a very young age, and they were very formative for me. But coming back to them after a while, these aren't movies that I watched through middle and high school. These are movies that I kind of stopped watching after like grade school,
Yeah.
And so coming back to them as an adult really kind of paints a picture, especially having seen so many other movies since then. These are very, very flawed.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to encapsulate these movies. Is very flawed, because I think and maybe I'll dive more into it as it goes on, but I think overall, I think there's definitely stuff there, right? Like I definitely think there's a lot to go with, and that's what's so great about like fantasy as a genre of like there's world building and stuff that you can really build off of. And of course, as we've seen over the years, that like they definitely build off of these things, these ideas, right? But it's just the execution is just what the fuck a lot of the time. But I won't dwell on it too long.
So the Phantom Menace, right?
Yeah.
Here's something that I want to do with you, a fun little exercise before we dive into the nitty gritty. I kind of want to get your brief summary on what the plot of this movie is. This is something I love doing with people who've watched this movie. What is the plot of the Phantom Menace? Okay,
so we start off with the issue of like this like what's the like a border patrol almost, but they're
blockade.
Blockade. Thank you. And so in order to get through the blockade or stop the blockade, they want to move the princess from the planet off the planet. I guess I'm a little confused about that part. But in doing so, they somehow lose fuel or something, so they have to land on a different planet. And so they have to enter into this race to get like the parts to fix the vehicle to leave the planet. But because they are Jedi and they're doing this, they're getting chased by like what we seem to know as like the Sith, or like his lackey, right? So his lackey is going to go chase down the Jedi to murder them. So it makes it easier for the blockade and whoever's ahead of the blockade, if you will, or like who's ever
Trade Federation.
Yes, who's ever the spearhead behind the Trade Federation. Because like, why is the Trade Federation there?
You're talking about the titular Phantom Menace.
Exactly. Oh, this is perfect. It's like poetry. It rhymes. So this whole movie we spend. Okay, well, I won't get to that, but yes, they have to enter this race in order to get the parts to leave this planet so they can, keep the princess safe. That's kind of it.
She's a queen in this movie.
Oh, queen. Sorry, my apologies. I'm sorry, your lordship.
You're thinking of Leia. She was a princess. So, okay. Right. Yeah. So
is that right?
Oh. Yeah. You got
okay.
You got it from the front. Here's the thing: the fact that you're having so much trouble kind of proves this is like a movie that George Lucas himself said is like made for kids, and yet the entire crux of the movie is like, the negotiation of trade disputes between outlying worlds, and it has to be solved by intervening Jedi who are working on behalf of a galactic senate. Like, it's just, it's like so. And here's the thing: people praise the politics of these movies, and I like the idea of a lot of these, especially in the third one. I like the ideas. The problem is that every single idea is just so half-baked, and everything that could be very subtle or very nuanced is just so on the nose and so in your face. Oh my god, I'll talk about that more in the third movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the idea is like it's just, you know, a trade federation who is blockading the planet of Naboo for their own money reasons, but really they're being manipulated by Palpatine in the background.
And also, the Trade Federation is not a part of the Separatists, right? Because they set that up
Separatists
in the
only show up
right?
in the second movie.
Oh,
The
in the
Separatists
second
is
movie.
like
Okay.
the group of planets who join together to like separate from the Republic.
Okay, because by the
and
end of this
Trade Federation
movie,
is one of the members of them.
Okay. I guess that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, they send Jedis. They are going there to negotiate, but then Palpatine says to kill the Jedis, and they do a really piss poor job of it. And they have one of the dumbest lines in the entire movie. Oh my god! And again, this has all been said before, but I cannot believe this fucking line. Where they flood the meeting room full of gas, and the Jedi decide to hold their breath, and then instead of just leaving them in there
They use
to
force
die
asthma.
because they can only hold their breath for so long or
Mhm.
bust through the door, they decide to open the doors, and the Newt Gunray is like, "They must be dead by now. Can destroy what's left of them." It's like, what are you talking about? Oh my god, dude. That line is so fucking dumb, and it's right at the start of the movie, and it just sets the tone so beautifully. I love it. So yeah, they do a whole action scene of like escaping this Trade Federation ship,
Mhm.
and they use like their really fast force speed, which is the only time they use that in the entire trilogy.
Yep. I have an issue with this and this is something that kind of I think happens every Star Wars till now, like every maybe
Sure.
not, it's a little fuzzy with the original trilogy. Maybe it didn't happen in New Hope,
Sure.
but basically like this idea, well, okay, actually no, I'm just gonna speak in the prequels, where obviously by the time the prequels come out, Star Wars is huge. We know Star Wars. Like we understand why we're here, or why we're sitting in these seats and watching.
Mm-hmm.
But so I guess when they start these film out, each film starts with this like bombastic like Jedi lightsaber fight. And I just have so many problems with, like, I just don't like it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like it would be nice if it didn't have like an action scene at the beginning. But
So
I
an action scene at the
understand.
beginning, that's what you're saying.
Huh? What's up?
Well, okay, no, I see what you're saying. I would argue that The Empire Strikes Back does this really fucking well, because The Empire Strikes Back actually starts
right.
really slow in that it sets up all the characters on Hoth, and like the most action you get is Luke going out and getting attacked by a Yeti, you know?
Yeah.
But like they set up what the characters are doing, what their relationships have been like in the time gap between the two movies.
Yeah.
You know, Darth Vader going after the rebellion and like trying to hunt them down, and it takes actually a good amount of time to get to the actual Battle of Hoth.
Right.
And I think that's done very well. So once again, Empire Strikes Back coming out swinging.
Right. Yeah. But that's why I feel like, because I was thinking about them and I was like, well, maybe it's just a prequels. And granted, I think, I was going to say Clone Wars. Oh my God. Attack of the Clones. Is that the one that starts with the spaceship battle, or is that
no, that's Revenge of the Sith. Attack of the Clones doesn't really have a too big of an action sequence at the start. Like it's mainly the like the investigation into who's trying to kill Padme is what goes on.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's just this movie that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way of just like seeing lightsabers right off the bat, and I'm just like,
well, here's the problem. Here's the problem with starting with this big action sequence is that we don't give two fucks about these characters,
right?
Because they are just so. And this is the problem with the entire movie, is that the characters, one, have no character traits, and two, are just so uninterested, because George Lucas had the idea that these are like wise monks of the Jedi Order, and so they must be very stoic and very, you know, not bothered by all the problems around them. And so it just seems like they just don't give a shit for the entire movie. Yeah. And oh my God, dude. George Lucas's acting direction is the biggest problem with these movies.
You had Liam fucking Neeson out here just being like, yes, get it.
Liam Neeson is legitimately one of the most boring fucking characters in the Star Wars universe. There is nothing interesting about him at all. The most interesting thing you can say about him is that like he kind of goes against the council wishes to teach Anakin, and it's like, cool. I wish we could get a little bit more than that, especially considering that's over halfway through the movie that you get to that.
Also, why is he doing that? Just because he believes in the chosen one?
I guess, yeah. They all know that. And that's another thing. Like, don't put a fucking chosen prophecy.
We will talk about that.
Sure, I just hate prophecy narratives.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, that's fair.
So, no, I agree. Like the beginning action scene isn't very good for this movie, but I think it is the main reason that is because one, the writing's really dumb, and two, the plot's really boring, and three, you don't give a two fucks about the characters.
Yeah. Agreed.
Another dumb thing that I think I pointed out when we were watching.
Jar Jar Binks.
I guess, but slightly before that,
okay.
They're when they're still on the ship. They get to like the hangar where they're preparing like the invasion force, and like, oh, they're setting up an invasion force to go down to the planet.
Yeah,
it's like, oh shit, that's pretty big. And then Qui-Gon's like, why don't we separate and go on different ships, and we'll meet back up on the planet? And it's like, what? Why? Why are you separating and getting on different ships and meeting back up on the planet?
Yeah, because like, is it supposed to be like a diversion? Because even still, it's like, are you going with the like? Well, they have to guess which one's the right one because you're putting the queen in danger if you're doing that too.
It's just this is even before the queen.
Oh, this is before the queen.
Yeah, this is them like going down to Naboo with the droid ships, and they decide to separate. And then they just meet back up after Qui-Gon meets Jar Jar.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, what was the point of that?
Damn, that is before the queen. Damn, that's crazy. Well, I don't get that.
It's so fucking dumb. And the whole idea about the invasion is so weird. It's like they need the invasion to be considered a legal invasion.
Yeah,
so they try and strong arm the government of Naboo, and who is led by the queen, into signing a treaty
that lets them
that lets them invade them, and then they're gonna take that treaty to the Senate and show it to them and say, "Hey, our invasion is legal. They said we could invade them."
Is that okay? So hold on. I'm actually going to do some like quick history.
Yeah,
like I guess wouldn't that be like two things? Let me look up what this means before I like just fucking. Offhandedly,
Casus Belli.
Okay, maybe not, but maybe it's more so akin to like Hitler and like appeasement, right? Wait, whoa, is that the right word? Where like
appeasement, you got it.
Yeah, right. Where like Hitler was taking over countries, and he's like, the UN is like, really, well, I guess you could do that.
They didn't frame it like that though. It wasn't like they invaded Naboo and then they went to the Senate and they're like, listen, you're really strong and we're scared of you, so we're going to let you have Naboo, but you're not allowed to take any more. It wasn't framed like that. It was them forcing the Naboo to sign a treaty, which they were then going to take. And I get that, like, Palpatine is basically, like, has a lot of influence over the Senate, but even then, how can he have that much influence before he's even Chancellor? Because fucking Valorum is still Chancellor.
Yeah.
And I guess he's like a Sith Lord who can read people's minds and see the future, but that creates its own sort of plot holes, which is dumb. I hate it. I hate Palpatine. I love him so much in these movies, but the writing behind him is so fucking dumb. Okay. Oh my god, we're getting hot already. All right. So we got Jar Jar. What are your thoughts on Jar Jar?
Dude, Jar Jar is weird because, like, I think had he just been a character that was like kind of like offhandedly introduced, I'm sure most people wouldn't have a problem with him. But it's this weird thing where it comes where they finally land on the fucking planet or whatever, and then Obi-Wan they finally meet up in the woods, and Jar Jar's here, and you're like, oh, okay, this character's probably gonna lead them to where they need to go and then like fucking dip. But he stays, and it's like, why the fuck are you here? Like, I just don't understand what Lucas is thinking when writing it. Like,
so his justification was that Jar Jar is supposed to be the comedic backbone of the movie. Did you find him entertaining?
But you have two bland ass fucking Jedi. Make them.
Yeah, so you need Jar Jar.
No. No, you don't need Jar Jar. Write interesting fucking characters that
Chris,
are also funny.
Chris, they're monks. They can't be funny. They have to be stoic.
You remember when Aang pulled out the little fucking marbles and was like, "Da, da, 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 da." That was funny. He's a monk.
True.
Fuck?
So here's the thing: is that they meet Jar Jar and they're like, we need to get to the other side of the planet because for some reason the invasion force landed on the complete opposite side of the planet to the fucking city they need to invade. You explain that one to me. So they decide that they need to go to the Naboo city to hopefully get a transport to take them to not the Naboo, the Gungan city, so that they can go to Theed, which is the Naboo city. And so Jar Jar leads them there, and they find out that Jar Jar has been banished because they explain it in the movie. He like crashed. What's Brian Blessed's name? I don't remember his name. Boss Nass. That's it. The guy who goes.
Yeah.
He Jar Jar apparently crashed that guy's like car or something. I don't know.
They say that? Holy shit, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, well, you can't understand it because they're unintelligible. Anyway, and so Jar Jar's going to be like either imprisoned or executed or whatever, and so Obi-Wan's like, oh, we should take him with us. He could be useful. And it's like, he owes me a life debt, so we're going to take him.
Yeah.
And then they use a Jedi mind trick to get a bongo so they can go through the planet core. So I get that. I get them taking Jar Jar.
Sure.
That he doesn't, and that makes it like, oh, they're nice, they're noble. They see that, you know, they're saving someone. That's cool. But after that, the fact that I think the biggest what the fuck.
Wait, can I guess it before you say it?
You know
is it when it gets to the fucking planet and instead of putting Obi-Wan down there with fucking Qui-Gon Jinn. What's his name? Qui-Jin. They fucking bring Jar Jar Binks for some stupid ass reason for him to eat fucking apples at a table. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. I don't understand why he's still a character after they leave the Gungan city. Like, how he could be in the background, they could just like give him a little thing, a send off, whatever. But the fact that they kept him on just shows that they really thought that he was going to be the comedic core of the movie,
which could work. Okay, I'm going to spend a lot of time, I think, in this podcast, like sort of rewriting, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to get into like the notion of rewriting Star Wars. I think
it's a Sisyphean task, I promise you.
Right. I think it could have worked if Jar Jar was like R2D2 or our boy C3PO, where he is a background character, but the things that he's doing are like sort of like pushing the plot along, or like he's a big help when he needs to be. Right? Yeah. If you wanted to have that kind of like, oh, this is sort of like our comic relief who's not really the guy, but is, right? Cool. I'm cool with that. But they don't. He's just like in the forefront being fucking stupid. And he also doesn't push the plot along, whatever the plot is.
I mean, another thing is I think R2D2 and C3PO are actually like a decent source of levity. Like I do actually find them somewhat charming and entertaining when they need to be. Whereas I don't think that's the case for Jar Jar.
Right.
It's just
you also can't hear him.
Yeah, you can't really understand what he's saying. The jokes they make with him are just really, really flaccid. Like there's literally a joke where he just steps in shit, and it's just like, what are we doing? You know?
Yeah. Anyway, you really hate fart jokes too, so that's I mean, it's just like, who cares? You know, that's what I think about it. Well, Lucas cares. He cares about us enough to like write a character who's comic relief. So
I guess. You know who doesn't care though? The Jedi, because once again we get a situation where they're going in this like boat, this submarine thing through the planet core, and there's like these giant fish that are trying to kill them and shit, and Jar Jar's losing his mind, and they're just like, oh, we're fine, relax. I know this has been said before, I know. It really does stand out to me, where it's like they just don't care about anything. Dude. It's just these two main characters. I say two. Obi-Wan's not a main character in this movie for some reason.
You mean Jar Jar Binks?
Jar Jar Binks gets more screen time than Obi-Wan. I swear to God,
he does. I'm sure he does.
I don't know for sure, but I feel like he does. Anyway, they just don't fucking care. And it's like, I get that you're trying to make a contrast between them, who are like really confident and they're awesome, and like Jar Jar, who's just like, oh no, gooberfish. But it just makes me not care about the stakes here, because I know they're gonna be fine. It's like, whatever, dude. I did like the part where they like the ship powers down and they have to give it a second to come back, and then like this giant monster in front of them when the power comes back on. I thought that was kind of cool. But then they get to the Theed city, and the invasion, like, they've already taken over the city. So it's like, what was the point of going through the planet core to get there? I guess whatever. I don't care.
I have a huge issue. I know we kind of passed it, but like my issue also, I mean, you talked about it, but it's just that I just don't understand how you can write a scene that is based in like action or high intensity and just have two characters who are just not giving us anything. Or you have a third character, which is Jar Jar Binks, giving most of the high action, or the high like acting, if you will. Like, it honestly boggles my fucking mind.
So I think you can make it work, because I'm thinking of like, you know, an anime where you have a main character who's just like a super badass, and like every situation they get in, they know they're going to be good and they can get out of it. But usually that goes with like really cool action, and I don't think this movie has that, other than like the end.
True.
Like, people talk about the fucking action in these movies and the cool lightsaber fights. I'll give you the lightsaber fight at the end is really cool looking. But again, I will get to that.
Also, Jar Jar Binks has 21 minutes and 51 seconds. Obi-Wan beats him with 24 minutes and 15 seconds.
Close one.
Very close. And Padme beat him by like, I don't know, like 17 seconds or something like that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. They rescue the queen and they get out. They have the whole bit where they run the blockade, and you know, the whole the whole thing where like their shield generator gets hit, which seems very dumb, because why, if you have shields up, why does your shield generator get hit through your shields? That is kind of weird. And then they have R2-D2 fix the shield generator, but then the ship just doesn't get hit again. Like, you don't see the lasers hit like their newly formed shield anymore. They just get out, and it's like, that's a nitpicky thing, but whatever. I just find that kind of funny.
Yeah.
Also, the look of the blockade, I mentioned this, how it's like, it's just like a single ring around the planet. It's like, well, why don't you just fly like on any place into the planet where there isn't a fucking ship, you know? It's like Saturn. That's what it looks like.
Right.
Anyway.
Also, shout out to the guy who's like piloting in that scene. That was one of my favorite characters, him and the black guy. So shout out to those two.
I believe you're impressed with their acting ability compared to everyone else.
Yeah, they were giving it their all.
I want to ask you before we move on to Tatooine. Like, did you expect the acting to be as wooden as it was?
No, I think that's like, okay, like I've seen, like, I'm not completely blind to the Star Wars fucking speed.
Yeah, like you've seen
I've seen clips.
Like, we've quoted it and stuff, you know.
Yeah,
it's kind of famous,
right? But I think I wasn't expecting Liam Neeson to be so wooden, and especially damn, what's her name? I always forget her name. Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman.
Yes.
Keira Knightley. No. All right, go on.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Because I was convinced they were the same person. Anyway, Natalie Portman, my God, is the worst actor in this first movie. Like, holy fuck. And like, there's only so much I'll give her grace. One, because I didn't. Sorry. I never seen any of Natalie Portman's early acting career. So this is like my first time seeing something where she's like really young. So I just assumed that like she's kind of like a kid, but I don't know what she's done before this, but I'm sure it was probably pretty good because it had better directing. But yeah, no, in this fucking film, I was like, holy fuck, Riley.
And
that was really bad.
We're not talking about the Queen decoy, are we? The one who's like, I will not condone an action that will bring war to our people.
The one with the face paint, no.
Yeah,
No,
not that
no,
one. We're talking about.
no, I actually thought she
Okay,
did that
good,
really
good,
well
good.
because I told you before we found out that she was.
I
I was
just want
like,
to make sure because there was some confusion there.
right, but I was like, yo, I was like, Riley, this is so great. Like Natalie Portman's doing so great in the makeup part. I don't understand why when she's a fucking regular
Really?
person.
Huh.
Yeah, you wanna know
I don't
why?
know if I feel that way, but go for it.
Well, I feel that way because I think the way that the queen comes off, like as the decoy or as the like actual playing the queen's part,
Uh-huh.
it feels like this like really stilted but like higher class. Like I don't know how to
Okay.
explain it. It just felt like how a queen would talk in this like fantasy,
Okay.
and the way she
Yeah,
looked. I think that
sure.
that really pushed it for me. It's just like, oh, this looks cool. I like how she's like the way that she's acting here
Sure.
versus when she's just a normal person, quote, i.e., like when she's Padme.
Okay.
I'm like,
Okay.
what the fuck is happening? But yeah, no, I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting everyone to be so stilted. I thought it was just like certain lines were delivered bad because I think you have those in like even movies nowadays where like I don't really like that line read, but damn, my God.
It's wild. It really is. I think. I mean, I don't know, man. I've seen. If you ever really want to just be inspired, like one of the most fascinating behind the scenes, like making of a movies, is mainly the Phantom Menace, but
Mhm.
really all the entire trilogy. The behind the scenes footage is fascinating for these movies. Just
Mhm.
watching George Lucas work at these and just seeing how bad it's gonna be. Like, oh my
Mhm.
oh my god.
So you feel like the writing was on the wall prior to even it releasing?
Judging by the footage we have, then I I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if this is like exactly what George Lucas wanted. I don't know if this is like these are the movies that he set out to make. I
But
feel like they are, but
what? But
I
because
don't
he
know.
had like pretty like
He had so
creative
much creative
reign.
control. Yeah,
Yeah.
like these movies were so much more like all him compared to the original trilogy. Because the
Mhm.
original trilogy, he only fucking even like he only directed the first one. You
Yeah.
know,
And that's not,
and then
and which is
and this one,
strange
like,
because it's not even like a bad movie. I'm not saying like a director's gonna be fucking dope all his fucking career, but it's just so strange because he directed that one. So I would think that this is his baby, this is his pride and joy. He would want it to be even better than A New Hope. Like
yeah.
I
I
don't
mean, it's
know.
it's a whole thing. So moving on. So
Yeah, sorry.
we have to move on to Tatooine, which is like the big middle chunk of the movie.
Middle chunk,
And
bro. Tatooine, bro. This whole thing, Riley, is the most frustrating. This movie, I think, this is why I think I hate Phantom Menace probably more than the other two, is because you say the middle chunk of this movie. No, this goes all the way to the practically the end, like practically
it's
than
not
the
that
last
bad, but
20 minutes. It feels.
it feels like it lasts for like over an hour. It probably does, but it's it's so wild because I remember owning this movie on VHS. Yes, God, dude, I remember, dude, VHS. Remember?
Yeah,
And
I think we had this one on VHS also.
and then I owned the second and third movie on DVD. So like, there's the time going by. Anyway, and I remember watching this movie a lot. And I don't remember if I skipped around or if I did actually watch it from beginning to end.
Yeah.
But even as a kid, I remember this being my least favorite part of the movie was the middle in Tatooine.
Yeah.
Because it's just like the entire trilogy is built as a way to set up Anakin Skywalker turning into Darth Vader.
Yeah.
That's the entire conceit of the trilogy, right?
Yeah.
And so I get that you want to spend a lot of time setting up Anakin as a kid here and like his, introduction into the story.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is so wasted because after the first movie, you have a fucking how long is the time jump? I know I looked it up.
Damn,
10 years.
10 years.
It's a 10-year time jump. So you're setting up this character as a kid here. And yeah, it's important to get his introduction to the story. But if you're going to skip ahead 10 years to where he's basically an adult, the amount of time that they spend here is not proportional to what I feel they should have spent if they were going to just skip ahead 10 years, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's just so much faffing around.
Yep.
And a lot of it barely even involves Anakin, because it's just a lot of like trying to barter with Watto, who's just like he feels like a racist character. I'm just gonna say that. There's a few racist characters in this movie. I'm just gonna say that. And it just feels so weird because, and again, they left Obi-Wan on the ship. That's one of the dumbest decisions in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're gonna have Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship be like the driving force of the second and third movie, you should probably have them spend a bit more time with Anakin in this movie and not just have him be like, oh, this kid sucks, I don't want anything to do with him. And I get that's supposed to be a creative choice that they're going for, and that creates a strain between them. But I cannot believe just how much faffing around they do with all like the wagering that leads up to the pod race. And this is why I asked you in the like when we were watching this, I'm like, can you explain to me what the wager is here?
I'm gonna try. So originally the wager is I'll give this kid the race, and if I win, you keep my like ship. Or sorry, if you win, you keep my ship. If I win, I get the parts to the ship, right?
Yes, that sounds right.
And then it goes from that to one step of like, if I win, then I get to keep the kid and the ship, or like, okay, I get to keep the kid and the ship, and then after that, it's like, oh, or I keep the mom, the kid, and the ship.
But he didn't accept that.
Yeah,
he said no.
Yeah, he didn't accept that, and then he went back to, okay, well, I'll just keep the kid and the ship,
and just the boy, yeah.
But
and then they made like a die roll at some point.
Yeah, and
I don't remember what the die roll was. The die roll to decide whether he would get the boy or the mother.
Yeah, I think so. And then he's like, so that's when he changes it to get the boy, and that's
he
why
cheats at it,
right? And that's why I'm like, oh well, if you want Qui-Gon Jinn to fucking cheat, then cool. I think that adds like a little bit of character development with the who the Jedi is.
He's willing to bend the rules, yeah.
Right. And also on top of that, you get the whole idea of like, oh, okay, well, he's doing it just for the boy. Once again, feeding back into the idea of like, oh, okay, he's really only here for selfish reasons of he thinks this kid is like the chosen one or whatever, but not to really just save the mom and his child, you know.
He's not doing this for benevolent reasons. He's doing it because he believes in the prophecy.
Right.
If they explored that more, that could have been really cool, but they didn't.
Yeah, I agree.
But they have the whole thing about like who supplies the pod, even though they already have the pod that he built, but he's not allowed to like tell him that for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that one of the problems I have is that there's just so much just tangled nonsense that is supposed to make the story seem more complex, but it just makes it seem more convoluted to me. Like they didn't have to do all this like, you know, this wager and this wager, we're gonna adjust it here, we're gonna have this die roll.
It's a lot of gymnastics.
It's like I just will never understand. Like if he's willing to try to use a Jedi mind trick, which ends up not working because this race is apparently like only swayed by money. It's like, well, that's convenient, you know. If he's willing to do that, and he's willing to cheat at a gamble, why doesn't he just fucking free Anakin in the night and steal the part and leave? Like,
and take his mother with
oh my god, dude, the fact that they never go back for the mom is so fucking dumb, dude. And I get that the whole thing is that the Jedi Order is supposed to be like really rotten, and like you're supposed to have this feeling of like, you know, it was all doomed to fail anyway because the Jedi are, you know, they're too entrenched in their idea of like stowaway their emotions, and that led to Darth Vader. It's like I get that, but it's just so fucking half-baked, dude.
Yeah, that's the thing is like I said before, there's something there in the mist and you can reach for it, but you'll never actually grab it because it's such fucking fodder between you and the fucking item that is in the fucking mist. Like my thing with you said it like kind of briefly of like you don't understand, and I guess I wanted to get that maybe more towards when we get to just focusing on Anakin, but I want to talk about it here because you talked about like how it is just a lot of fodder and a lot of like gymnastics to get to like push the plot along. But I felt like they could have utilized this time to just develop the relationship with Anakin and fucking Qui-Gon, or even Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. You know, like like you can still have this plot of like they have to get these items to build their ship, but make me also care about the characters during this. But you're giving me this weird like setup about like getting these parts for his ship.
Yeah, it's all focused on like how the gambling and the wager is going to work instead of actually focusing on the characters aspect of it.
Also,
One of my,
oh,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna one of my favorite jokes they make in the Red Letter Media reviews is when he's like, I think one of the things I should have done for this movie is combine the characters of Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi to make a new character named Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was so fucking funny.
You know, I like, okay, so I want to talk about this. I guess I won't dwell on it too long, but this is part of me rewriting Star Wars, okay? So just bear with me. But I think, once again, things like this could have worked. I think you said you don't really like Obi-Wan like shitting on Anakin, like, or whatever, right? Like, I mean, not to misquote you or anything, but
well, I think the problem is like, well, I think the problem is that you want them to feel like they're actually friends before they become enemies,
right?
And when you're starting their relationship with Obi-Wan just wanting nothing to do with him, and then you do a time skip, and after the time skip, they seem like best friends. That kind of creates this dissonance where he skips the middle parts of that adventure.
Maybe this is because of the acting. Maybe it's because I'm looking at it differently. But I personally thought that with the time skip, it still feels like Obi-Wan doesn't want anything to do with Anakin.
Yeah,
right?
No, they're still fucking. They still feel like really awkward. And all Anakin does when Obi-Wan's not around is fucking complain about him.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I say they seem like best friends, but really what I'm referring to is that elevator scene where they're like, oh, well, you fell into that nest of Gundarks. It's like, oh, yeah, aren't we friends? And they laugh together, and it's like, that's the best they got, you know?
Yes. And so this is a weird thing that might be, like, I'm not, like, a really great writer or anything, right? But one thing I think that could have really worked is this whole, like, I think if Obi-Wan had just, like, in this movie, specifically Phantom Menace, he's introduced to Anakin. He goes with fucking Qui-Gon Jinn, not fucking Jar Jar Binks. And also, I would age Anakin up, personally, to, like, like a preteen. I wouldn't make him a child. Make him a preteen. But
Chris, he's already old enough. He's too old to become a child.
Anyway... Make him like an angsty teen, like an angsty preteen, right? Sure. So that gives like Obi-Wan a reason to be like, I don't really like this kid. And Qui-Gon Jinn is like, okay, but he's the chosen one, so you don't really have a choice but to like him, right?
Sure.
Or at least get along with him because we want to train him. So in this movie, he's like, I don't really like this kid. This kid's like a piece of shit. Qui-Gon Jinn fucking dies, and by the end, he's like, oh. Okay, well, in order to honor Qui-Gon Jinn, I'm just going to have to stick with the fact that I'm going to watch over this kid. Cool, whatever. Time skip in the next movie. Have where, like, Obi-Wan still really doesn't really like Anakin. He still kind of sees him as that, like, little shit kid. But the only thing that's holding him on to Anakin is his master, right? Play more into that. Play more into him not liking Anakin as much. But throughout this whole movie, we find that he's like growing an attachment to Anakin and who he is. And he might even see Qui-Gon Jinn in Anakin, right? So by the time we get to the third film, Anakin's like, yeah, you treated me like shit this whole time. And then Obi-Wan is like, yeah, I did. But truthfully, I always did love you. Like you grew on me. That is like such a beautiful story to me.
I think it also would have been cool if like in the second movie, like you're saying, if Obi-Wan is still holding on to like the perception of Anakin he had at the beginning, but we actually see how much Anakin's changed in the time skip. But we see that Obi-Wan still has like this emotional, like, you know, not only does he see him still as like the guy he didn't like originally, but also he connects this kid with the death of his master who's super close to him. I think that could be kind of neat. Like we as the audience like, come on, Obi-Wan, you just have to see like
Right.
what he can do. We see it, but we're waiting for Obi-Wan to see it. And then like at the end, the big climax, Anakin like saves him from Count Dooku or whatever,
Right.
and then it's like, yes, Anakin, like I've like they finally respect each other, and then boom, you go into the third movie, and then you start the deterioration of their relationship.
Right.
We're
And
not
that's
writers,
great
but I think
because
that'd be pretty cool.
also with that, what you just said about like us seeing Anakin, it makes Anakin a likable character because we go through these movies also feeling like Obi-Wan. We're like, why the fuck would I like Anakin? He's such a creep. He's weird. He's like, we'll get to that. But yeah, like, yeah, I just think I don't want to sit here, like I said, and rewrite Star Wars. I know numerous peoples out there. There's numerous YouTube channels and fucking podcasts that probably rewrite Star Wars, but I'm not here to do that. But I just think that once again, it frustrates me so much with the prequels because there is stuff there that they could have worked on and really
so great,
fucking fast, dude.
And again, I'm going to talk about that in the third movie. Like, I think the third movie, there's so much there where I'm like, oh my god, this is so close to being so cool, and it doesn't hit the finish line.
Yeah.
But wrapping up on Naboo, or not Naboo, Tatooine. So we talked about. And I remember when we were watching this, you said that the child acting for Anakin wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Nope, I still stand by that.
Yeah, I mean,
he just acts like I know
he has some bad line reads, but I mean, they're not any worse than some of the other.
It's not worse than fucking Padme, fucking Natalie Portman. That is really some shit, dude. I like. I might actually put like a fucking voice clip of a line of where she's at the dinner table. That shit was ass.
The thing about it is that like people always harp on the like, "Are you an angel?" line that he gives.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of like the least proper examples if you're gonna like. When I think of the bad line reads he has, I think of stuff like I get to come with you and your starship. Like that's not a great line read. Did you know he's also the kid from Jingle All the Way? Did you know that?
Wait a fucking minute. You know what's so funny is we just talked like I literally was just talking to my friends the other night. I had just seen Captain America, so I seen a new Captain America. Yeah. So we were sitting and talking about it, and somehow we started talking about Jingle All the Way, and I was like, and my friend was like, "That's my favorite Christmas movie. I fucking love that movie." I was like, "My fucking friend hates that fucking movie," and like he was like, "What?" And so we had like a little funny talk about that, but it's just so funny it got brought back up by you. But yeah, I didn't know that little kid was the one.
What's that line? He said, "You should always keep your promises if you want to keep your friends." So I remember from that movie. Anyway, so yeah, and that's the last thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, the pod race.
Yes.
How are you on the pod race itself?
Okay, so like I said, I just feel like this fucking shit overstays its welcome. Like, but that's just Tatooine in a whole. Like, it's
a microcosm of Tatooine.
Yeah,
itself.
it's just Tatooine itself just overstays its welcome. I'm so tired of seeing this dirt planet, but I will say, I think the pod racing scene is actually really cool. I don't mind the pod racing scene, especially if
a lot of people feel that way.
Right. If Lucas said like, this is for kids, that's something as a kid I would think, yo, that was fucking cool. I will sit down and watch that. Right. There's some really those people eat it in that fucking race. Like, yeah, this is cool. The CGI looks pretty good. Like, I have no complaints.
It's a great blend of CGI and practical. That's one of the coolest things I remember from some of the behind the scenes stuff is the work they put into it. Especially with some of the crashes, how they talked about like the computing power needed to animate the crashes with all the moving parts and all the debris flying was like so intense that they thought it might not be like possible.
Wow,
with the
that's
computers
crazy.
they had at the time. But yeah, no, it turned out great. The sound design's really cool.
Oh yeah, we brought that up.
Yeah, you were talking about that when we were watching it. It's like each of the pods has like its own unique kind of sound that the engines make. You get some Tusken Raiders in there. What's not to like about that?
I'm sad we didn't get the woman from Ragnarok pointing, but maybe next time.
True. But yeah, no, just like Tatooine, I think it's cool, but it just goes on a little too long, and they could have cut that down a bit. And I remember, as a kid, I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." And then I remember playing the Lego Star Wars games, and the fucking pod race level is one of the hardest fucking levels in the entire game, to the point where when they re-released it as the complete saga, they actually fucking nerfed it. Oh, that was fun. Anyway, so yeah, they free Anakin, and they can't take his mother, which is like dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, I can accept that, but the fact that they never go back for her in 10 years is really dumb.
Yep.
Anyway, because the whole point of them only being able to take Anakin is that they're basically marooned here with no money, but then they go back to Coruscant, and they could bring back however much money they need to go free her, but they just don't. Whatever.
Also,
so fucking dumb.
we didn't even go over it, but the reason why like Qui-Gon Jinn wants fucking Anakin is because he's the chosen one. I mean, we talked about that obviously, but why he's the chosen one?
Okay, yeah. Okay,
yes.
So, what are your thoughts on midichlorians?
Dude. Okay, so I have this note, and this is the first note I wrote before. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna read you the notes afterwards. Before I get to this note, the note afterward I had is Anakin could have been older, which I just talked about that. But right after that, I wrote the sequels are worse? Question mark? Exclamation point. All right. So anyway, so I wrote Anakin being conceived by the Force is actually a cool idea in concept, not when it's by forced sales, though. That's just dumb. Yeah. I think the idea of like a chosen one can work. I think. Especially like during this time, not during this time, but like it's been done before. Like Dune, like I said, deals with the whole chosen one thing. Right. It's kind of like a deconstruction of that, right? And I think what the prequels is trying to do is practically do the same thing of like, what is the chosen one? You know, what does that mean to them? Or like the one you think is the chosen one isn't. So by reinforcing the idea of this chosen one, Anakin is supposed to be like this Jesus-like character, but it feels so half-assed. Like there was no reason for them to make Anakin a fucking magical bird, right? Like other than the idea of,
like I said, so on the nose, dude.
Right, and you're introducing this weird, like this weird, like, oh well, we gotta have a reason why he's immaculate conception. It can't just be because. It has to be because of the midichlorians, right?
So there is actually a reason that fans have theorized, like an actual explanation for it.
Go ahead.
And it's one that I think is kind of cool, but I'm pretty sure it's been confirmed to not be the case. But I still think it's like a neat idea. Again, one of those neat ideas that could have been cool if they explored it. Do you remember in the third movie when they have that opera scene where Palpatine is talking about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis, the lies,
and they're sitting down beside each other. Yeah.
I was about to go through the whole monologue, and then I realized we gotta keep things brief here. He mentioned, as part of his lure to try and save Padme, he was like, he was so powerful, he could influence the midichlorians to create life. And so people have theorized that because Palpatine was, the apprentice, and he learned everything that Darth Plagueis knew, that he actually had the power to save Padme if he so desired, which is kind of the tragedy. He told Anakin, like, oh, we could discover the secret together. He actually had the power the whole time if he really wanted to. But people have also theorized that he was actually the one who conceived Anakin by influencing the midichlorians to create the life inside of his mother. And so, like, he was, it was going to be, people theorized that Lucas was actually going to reveal that, and it was going to be a whole retread of the I am your father thing. But that is all speculation, True. But I think that idea is really cool. If you're going to go with a whole Immaculate Birth thing, make it, like, more of a twisted thing where Palpatine is creating this, like, being that he can use as a tool to take over the galaxy. Because that's really fucked up, and that's actually a really neat idea.
But that kind of falls apart because he didn't even know about Anakin until like they brought him back, right? Like Anakin wasn't even.
We have no idea what Palpatine knows and what he doesn't know. He's all knowing, and apparently his plan involved him getting flattened on his ass by Yoda.
He also has unlimited power, so
true.
But yeah. So I want to go into something else with this. In terms of like. This might be too, like, I don't know, like, too big brain. I might be thinking about it too hard. But I think with this whole, if you want Anakin to be Jesus. Cool. I think what works in religion, not just Christianity, in all religions, is mysticism. Mysticism works, right? Like
Okay.
I think that's what interests people, and not even in just religion, just in like once again fantasy, right? The reason why we love things like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings is the mysticism behind the world, right? Like one of the coolest things about the book of Game of Thrones that you like kind of like showed me through a video we watched is Euron Greyjoy, right? And the idea that the mystique behind Euron is like kind of fucking crazy, you know? Or like in horror movies, like some of the greatest horror movies play with what your mind creates, not what is actually seen, not the big monster. You see what I'm saying? Though those things can be cool. So like, let's go back to here. I think what's so cool about the Force is what Riley loves in the original trilogy of what Yoda says of like, the Force is all around us. It's everything. It is both good and evil. It is everything. It is it, right?
Yeah.
But you ruin that mystique when you introduce something like the midichlorians, because you could just be like, oh, well, that person had less midichlorians than that person, so clearly he lost because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it takes away the impact of what the Force is and what the Force means in this world of fantasy.
Yeah, it's the same thing as adding like, you know, power levels or whatever.
Exactly.
Or like in Naruto when they put too much focus on like chakra levels, like whoever had more chakra, you know, or especially in later Naruto when they started making them fucking reincarnates of Jesus, but we're not going to go into that. Yeah, that's exactly my problem with it. I'm glad you vocalized it as someone who is coming into these prequels brand new. You're vocalizing exactly what people's problem is with this, is that the Force was this really mystical thing that was really empowering for viewers, especially watching this at a young age, is this beautiful idea that even someone as unassuming as Yoda, this tiny little gremlin creature who steals Luke's hot dogs, someone as unassuming as that could be this master of the Force, just like through his own willpower, through training, whatever he fucking did. But like, size matters not, you know? That was the point that they were trying to make, is that anyone can use the Force. It's in everyone. And then we get to the prequels where they have a blood test where you can check someone's midichlorian count, and it's going to help determine how powerful they are with the Force. And it's just so much less interesting, you know? And it's exactly like you said, the most interesting things are the things you can come up with in your mind, as opposed to what's, you know, written down as fact, you know?
Yeah.
And it's something that I think people do harp on a lot that isn't as important compared to a lot of other things about the prequels. But at the same time, it really is something that bothers me because of how much I loved The Empire Strikes Back and how much I loved the idea of the Force in the originals.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
that's basically Tatooine all summed up.
Yeah. Great.
So
I was gonna bring in like the Acolyte, but I feel like that would just be rambling, because they do some stuff with like creating things, like creating people with the Force in there, and it has nothing to do with like Jedis or Sith. It's literally like this witch cult who uses the Force, and that's a cool idea, but it doesn't mean anything in the show. Practically, it doesn't mean anything. But yeah, But anywho, we can continue.
All right, so unlike the Star Wars franchise, we have finally escaped Tatooine, and we're going back to Coruscant. I love the idea of Coruscant being like this planet, and the entire planet is just a capital city. I think that is completely unfeasible and completely ridiculous when you think about it logistically.
Right.
But it's a really cool idea, and they made it look really good. But we get back to the politics aspect, where they go back in and Padme's like, oh, they're trying to strong arm us into signing this treaty to be legal, and people aren't really listening to her, so she has to go to Palpatine, who's another senator from Naboo, and he's like, well, Padme, if you, well, he's actually talking to the Queen Decoy, but he's like, if you call for a vote of no confidence against Chancellor Valorum, then perhaps we can get a new leader who is more capable of dealing with this threat. And so he's basically manipulating her into voting Palpatine into power as the Chancellor.
I'm not gonna lie, the first time I heard that, I actually thought he meant like her getting into the the chancellor seat, and I thought that he was going to manipulate her.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get that until obviously later. I'm like, oh, okay, he wanted the chancellor seat for himself. But
yeah, so one of the big things about these movies that again is one of those great concepts is that Palpatine slowly accrues more and more power over the course of the 3 movies. In the first one, he becomes Chancellor. In the second one, they vote him emergency power to handle the war, and then the third one, he finally he doesn't dissolve the Senate. That happens in A New Hope, but he converts the Republic into an empire.
Yeah,
and I think that's a really neat idea. But the problem is we're dealing with a villain who apparently has foresight and can manipulate people's minds and shit. So it doesn't really make sense that he would need to manipulate a queen from Naboo to call for a vote of no confidence to make him chancellor. Like, it seems like, especially when it's kind of shown that he can control the minds of the other people who he was like, those are the people who are the actual power behind the chancellor. Like, it's shown that he controls those people, so he can just have them call for a vote of no confidence. It's
so is he strong enough to just silly. Like completely just make Anakin be bad? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or
Anakin's we could talk about Anakin's fall to darkness when we get to the third movie, because that's its own whole can of worms. But if we're asking about what Palpatine's specific powers are, we literally don't know.
Right.
It's so nebulous, and the extent of his ability to foretell what's going to happen, and the extent of his ability to cloud the minds of the Jedi and make them stupid, which they are,
right,
is just is not explored.
And this is where too much mysticism causing the issue. There has to be balance within the Force.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where they're writing a villain who is apparently this super genius who has this master plan, but you can't write someone who's smarter than yourself, so they have to leave it all up to mystery, and that just makes him look really dumb when things don't go his way.
I never thought that Palpatine was like the smartest villain ever. It just felt like a lot of things was just per chance, but or happenstance.
I don't know, man. I love Palpatine. Ian McDiarmid is my favorite actor in this trilogy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I love that they brought him back, and I love how much fun he has just being this just wicked villain. I love how he has both the polite senator who's willing to help you out, and he sees the bigger picture, and also the evil dark lord.
Do it.
Do it. I love it. It's so entertaining, and it's why the third one is easily the best movie, is because you just get to see him be himself at his most joyously evil, and I love it.
Yeah.
But they do this dumb thing where they vote Palpatine as the Chancellor, but even then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but we still can't have the Republic support the war. They won't do it." And so Palpatine has to like go back to Naboo by herself and try and win the war herself, which is like, it really paints this idea of like, well, why did we give you emergency? Like, why did we call for a vote of no confidence if Palpatine is just not going to do anything different than Valorum was doing? Valorum was like being like, would you? He has this fucking line where I'm like, no kid is going to understand. He's just like, would you defer your motion to have a separate committee do the validity of your statement? It's this whole fucking line. I'm just like, what are we doing? Anyway, so they send Padme back, and she has to go back and fight, like join up with the Gungans and like convince Boss Nass to help her. And I don't really get the whole idea they're going for, where the Naboo and the Gungans are like integral to each other. They have the line where Obi-Wan's like, what will affect one of you will affect you both. You must understand this. It's like they live in an underwater fucking kingdom, and I don't think the electronic battle droids are going to be able to get down there and get them, and I don't think they really care. So I don't know why.
Well, no, never mind. I was gonna say maybe it's like a little like a trade theme within the Gungan and top.
They
world.
Never say that. Ever.
I know. I'm just trying to stretch it.
That would be cool though, maybe. But they basically just convince Boss Nass by appealing to his vanity. Like, oh, if you help us out, you'll be really cool. And he's like, oh, that would be cool. I'll help you out.
Also, Jar Jar, you're cool.
Jar Jar, he's gonna be, he's a Bombad general. So we get to the climax, and one of the things that's been picked to death about the climax of this movie is how there's this theory that George Lucas wanted to just continue to escalate the climaxes of these movies, where in A New Hope you have just the attack on the Death Star, and that's all that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
In Empire Strikes Back, you have you have like Han, or not Han, you have Leia and Chewbacca and Lando running away in Cloud City, and then you have Luke fighting Darth Vader. So there's like two different things going on.
Even though that's
and then
pretty big itself, but go ahead.
and then in Return of the Jedi, you have the attack on the second Death Star. You have the battle that's taking place on the surface on Endor to take out the shield generator, and then you have Luke fighting Vader. So there's three things going on. And then in this one, Lucas decided to up it to 4. So you have the Gungans fighting the droids. You have the Queen and like the Naboo trying to take out or capture the Viceroy. You have Anakin fighting the droid ship in space, and then you have the Jedi fighting Darth Maul.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you think it was too much, or do you think it was well balanced? Do you think they could cut any of them?
Yeah, I just think. I think the fucking droid and Gungan fight. I don't care. I just don't care, dude. And also, I have like the Battle of Wakanda in Infinity War. It's way better than whatever the fuck this is.
You're comparing a movie from 1999 to
that doesn't mean shit.
2019 or what? 18.
You know. I was thinking like, the prequels, like, they really wanted like computer generated stuff. Like, I get that. Like, they really wanted to. These movies were pretty different for doing computer generated stuff. But then I'm like, Alien came out in 1980, and that movie fucking looks good. Like, what the fuck, And then I'm like, I don't know. I'd rather watch Infinity War. And like, it came out 20 years later, but sometimes I might want to watch the original or like the the other thing more than the modern thing. So it is what it is.
So,
sorry. I should ask you before you carry on. What do you think they should cut anything, or like was it too much?
I think so. This is another thing where I'll talk about the behind the scenes. There's actually some behind the scene footage of Lucas and a bunch of like the bigwigs who were making the film, watching like the finished product in a little private theater, and during the climax, there's actually a moment where George Lucas is watching it, and he just kind of says to himself and the people around him, like, I think we may have gone a bit too far in some places. And he proceeds to say, like, but if you take out, this thing at this point, then this thing wouldn't work. And if you take out this part, then, all the setup we did for this part wouldn't work. And at this point, it's just too difficult to actually take stuff out without the whole thing falling down. And it's like, I get that.
Yeah.
But that's why I think you need to have more planning when you go into these, and that's a lesson that apparently the sequel trilogy didn't learn either. But that's another can of worms.
Yeah.
So I just think if you want to actually tackle this and make it more impactful, the whole structure just doesn't work, because I don't care about any of the characters. So it doesn't matter how well you tailor this climax, I'm probably not going to care about it. As it happens, if I put myself in the mindset that I did care about these characters, I would say keep the Darth Maul stuff, because that's pretty necessary.
Yep. Keep the Anakin stuff. I like the Anakin stuff. So
keep the Anakin stuff, because he needs something to do, considering he's going to be the main character.
If you go with my rewrite, they tell him to sit still, don't shut his mouth, be quiet, you're a kid. He's a preteen, he's angsty, he gets into a ship, he fucks shit up, he gets shit done, but he's still a little shit who drove a plane he wasn't supposed to. Just want to say that.
Yeah, because as it turns out in the actual movie, it's like an accident that the ship starts going off.
Exactly.
This is fucking stupid. What's the line, everyone? I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. I love it.
Yeah.
It's really down to the actual like army battle and the infiltrating the palace to capture the Viceroy. I think one of those two things, or even both of them, should have been at least cut down. But
I think definitely the Viceroy thing. The fucking enemy, like the Gungan thing, I just don't care enough. Like,
so the thing is that like you have the Gungans fighting the droids because they needed them to lure the battle droids out of the city so that they could infiltrate and go capture the Viceroy. But then you also have the pilots going and fighting the battleship to disable all the battle droids. So they're doing two things that amount to the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then incidentally, they find out Darth Maul is there, and then the Jedi have to fight him, whereas they were originally going to be part of the team that was going to capture Newt Gunray.
Device, right?
But I don't know. I think it was just a little sloppy.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot sloppy, and also I don't care.
Mhm.
But in the end, we the best part, we barely talked about Darth Maul at all.
I think the movie barely talks about Darth Maul at all.
I think Darth Maul barely talks at all.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Anyway, Darth Maul, always cool design. I remember having a toy of him, like the actual action figure of him. I think most people really was sold by his look. He was in the trailer for this movie when it came out, right? I think that's like a lot of people really wanted to see him.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of like what a Sith should look like. Like I get like the whole Palpatine. Obviously, Palpatine was established way before the prequels. And like he always looked like the fucking ugly gremlin he is. But had he like kind of looked like over time, this is what it turned you into, that'd be fucking sick. But yeah.
What is he? I'm trying to remember. It's he's one of the planet that he's from is called Dathomir, and I think that's just kind of what they look like on that planet, except for I guess the yellow eyes, which is apparently a thing.
Yeah, that doesn't really.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in the same boat. He's cool. The fight's pretty damn cool. It's just like it doesn't matter how cool your fight is. I want to be able to care about what's happening, and in the end, I just don't.
I can say though, just talking on like the fight itself, I just love when like they take a break, right? And he's like walking backwards because he's on guard, and he like picks up the fucking, I don't know, like a piece of metal, and he throws it at the door, so the door opens up so he can back up somewhere. It's just little cool things like that. I really fuck with.
Right? Yeah. No, man, the guy that plays his actual like the body acting is Ray Park, and he's voiced by Peter Serafinowicz, I believe.
They didn't
Ray
get
Park
him
is
to
an actual
play.
No, it's a different voice.
Weird.
He only has like 3 lines, but Ray Park is an actual like stunt coordinator. Like he's a professional at doing choreography and sword fights and stuff. So it really does come across like he knows what he's doing, and it looks really fucking cool, especially after Qui-Gon dies and Obi-Wan and him just have that little rush there, and the bit where he like blocks in front, then blocks behind. Oh, that's the part I always remember.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite ones.
Cool. I wish it would. I honestly wish it would have gone on just a little longer, just because I love. It's so fucking cool how it looks. Anyway,
but how he dies is actually really fucking weird. I wish they could have made a way different way for him to die, because it's just kind of silly.
Yeah, it's very weird because he had the high ground, so I'm not sure how he lost.
Yeah, you're right. He says over Obi-Wan, I have the high ground now. And then Obi-Wan's like, you underestimate me. And he actually did underestimate his power, and he died for it. So.
The idea is that Obi-Wan learned from that maneuver, so when Anakin tried the same thing against him, he knew to just cut him in half.
Also, why did he just force jump back up there?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
All right. Anyway,
and that's about the size of it. They go back. They fucking burn Qui-Gon. We barely talked about him dying, but he died. And then the movie just kind of ends, and the Gungans and the Naboo have peace. They raise a big ball of light, and he says, "Peace."
Yeah,
that was it.
That's an Phantom Menace. Probably the worst in the prequel. Personally, don't like it. It's just a lot of wasted time, I think. Yeah, I'm sure Riley's gonna go into his whole issue with Attack of the Clones. But yeah,
Attack of the Clones, honestly, watching it with you for the first time was really fun.
Yeah,
but just because of how bad the scenes are and how bad the performances are.
Oh my god, dude!
It was so fun.
When we get to, I was literally I had to pause the movie when he said, "This is Obi-Wan's fault." Holy
it's
fuck.
all Obi-Wan's fault.
That shit was the funniest shit I've seen in a movie in a long time. But yeah,
we're really critical. He never listens.
It's okay to be angry.
After he murders an entire clan of people.
Oh my god, dude.
Not just the men, but the women
and the children too.
right, let's move right
Let's
in
fucking
then.
go to the best movie.
Attack of the Clones. We can obviously talk about how convoluted the whole murder investigation plot is, but that's been done before. You know, the idea that Palpatine sends this guy, 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 sends robots, sends bugs. But realistically, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think it was a good thing to have the main crux of the first half of the movie be like this investigation into who's trying to kill Padme?
It's
why
hard.
they were trying to kill Padme.
Because he follows this trail of like who's going to kill Padme, they get into the whole like Dooku thing, right? Right? Is that
yes?
That it eventually gets to that point
because Dooku hired Jango Fett
yes,
to kill her. Yeah. So
and okay, you know what? I think
oh my God,
I think that aspect is cool. If you had Jango Fett be the one to like start this whole thing, but it's weird because Jango Fett then hires someone else to kill. And I know fucking what's our boy name? Cosmonaut talk about this, where it's like just this ongoing thing of hiring people to kill Padme, right? But had you just had Jango Fett try assassinating her, it goes wrong and he escapes, and then they try to follow the trail of Jango Fett, and that leads into Dooku. I actually think it's a really cool idea. I think that's fine. But it's just this long-winded of like fodder to get to Dooku. And it's like,
yeah, the whole scene of them chasing down the shapeshifter goes way too long. Especially saying they never actually do anything with the idea that the character's a shapeshifter. But again, that's been said before.
Once again, Obi-Wan's like, hey, you stay here or you do this. Well, I'll go do this. And I just don't like that. We didn't like it in the first movie when Obi-Wan was in the fucking ship. Why are we trying to make Anakin just stay on a fucking planet? You know, like.
So here's. Okay, I'm actually going to do something a little different here. And before we kind of go through the movie chronologically, I want to go through the conspiracy, we're going to call it, of this movie. Because I've been waiting to talk about this since we watched this movie.
Yeah, I remember you talking about, like, kind of bringing it up. But.
Okay, so Obi-Wan gets the dart that Jango Fett used to kill the shapeshifter, and he goes to Dexter Jettster in his 80s diner. Yeah. And Dexter Jettster, this random nobody, knows that it's a Kaminoan dart.
Yeah.
And so he needs to find out where Kamino is. But apparently Kamino's been erased from the Jedi records.
Right.
But he finds it anyway because he finds it's a place where a planet should be. And he has to go to some kids, and the kids tell him, well, if it should be there, why don't you just go there? And it might be there.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
And it turns out it is there. So he goes there, and he finds at Kamino is a giant cloning facility.
Yeah.
And apparently an order for clones has been placed by a Jedi Master, Sifo Dyas.
Oh, I was confused. I thought Kamino was the one who ordered the clones, but who is also a Jedi Master.
No, Kamino's the name of the planet. It's just the place.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's what else. Okay, sorry. Can continue.
But yeah, so they said we've been producing an army, and it was asked for by a Jedi named Sifo Dyas. Yeah. And Obi-Wan's like, well, he's dead. He's been dead for a while.
But I'm a stand-in for Sifo Dyas.
Yeah, and he's just like, well, I guess I'll accept him. Why not?
Yeah.
And they find out that Jango Fett, the guy who was behind the plot to kill Padme, he's the one who they've been cloning to make these clones. It's like, okay, well, that could be a coincidence. We'll see. Obi-Wan decides to follow Jango Fett back to Geonosis, where Jango Fett meets up with Count Dooku, who is a former Jedi and who is leading the Separatist movement, which is a bunch of planets who are deciding to step away from the Republic.
Yeah. And
eventually they have a whole war. Like, you find out they're building an army of battle droids. Oh, shit, what are they going to do with that?
Yeah.
And so they have this connection of Jango Fett was involved in the plot to murder Padme. Jango Fett is the template for the clone army. Jango Fett is directly working for Count Dooku. He was literally at the battle. Mace Windu chopped his head off. Okay, and yet they find out that Count Dooku is a Sith Lord now.
Yep.
Like, he has a red lightsaber. He's Force lightning. He's evil. He's clearly working with this mysterious Sith Lord.
Yes.
they never figure out that there may be something fishy going on with the clone army that they get given.
Yeah, that's one thing
Like, what?
My
They
thing is,
never question the fact that they have this massive clone army ordered by a mysterious Jedi who died a long time ago, way before this could possibly get into production, and that the person who was the template for all this was not only involved in the plot to murder Padme, but he was hired by a Sith Lord who was working with the mysterious Sith Lord, and they are all part of the droid army that they're going to fight for the next 5 years.
yeah.
Dog. It makes no sense. The only sense they can make of why they don't see through this is that Palpatine is clouding their minds, which is the dumbest fucking explanation.
Yeah, I want to say on record, because I said this when we were watching it, right when we get to the clone facility and the leader of the facility or whatever is like, oh, we were hired by a Jedi to create this clone army. I on record said, actually, this is really cool. I think this idea right here is actually really cool, and I'm fucking with it. But like you said, I think the more I thought that Obi-Wan was gonna like immediately go like, oh, this is some fishy shit, right? Because also going into this movie, I thought we eventually find out they are evil, but I thought that the clones, like, one, I thought they were always evil. Like, I thought everyone knew that, right? Because I didn't know through the fucking cultural osmosis. I just thought, like, oh, okay, the clones are evil, so everyone knows that. They were just Boba Fett's minions. I literally thought that's what was going on.
But when the movie's called Attack of the Clones, it makes it seem a little bit evil. And when you hear about like the Clone Wars, like in the original trilogy, it's like, you fought in the Clone Wars? You think it's like, oh man, a bunch of clone monsters who like attack and stuff,
right? But then majority of this movie is just the Jedi like obviously utilizing the clones, and I was just like, but that's so strange. But I think you laying it out like that, I was like, no, that's actually really fucking strange. Like, why didn't Obi-Wan, like, he should have been the main one. It's like, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't use these fucking clones. Like, I saw fucking Jango Fett fucking leave. Like,
and the fact that like here's the thing. When the clones show up on Geonosis to save the Jedi, and then they start this big battle between the Jedi or the clones and the droids, like, that is like, we like Yoda needed to get them and bring them to save the Jedi. That like makes sense to me. But in the let me actually make sure I got the timeline right. It's fucking, when does this movie take place? 3 years. In the 3 years between movies 2 and 3, they do no investigating into the background of the clones. They may cover it in the Clone Wars. I haven't seen all of it. But it's just so, especially when the majority of this movie is Obi-Wan doing an investigation.
Yep.
After this movie, I guess they're too busy fighting the Clone Wars, even though they could be trying to investigate what's behind it in the first place. And here's the thing. I actually love the idea of Palpatine like bankrolling 2 armies to create a galactic conflict.
Yeah,
that will allow. Yeah, he's like Zemo, or he's like Hitler. Well, not Hitler. Hitler didn't engineer. I mean, he kind of did, but like, I love the idea of him being like the mastermind behind both sides. Like, he created this conflict by himself so that he would continue to get voted more and more power until he eventually becomes the Emperor. I think that's a fucking awesome idea.
Yeah.
But it just makes the good guys look so fucking dumb when they don't engage with this at all.
I agree.
It's so bad. It's so fucking dumb, dude.
Also, we like barely touched the Jedi Order, but they're just a group of just the most boring people. My God, like, I just want them to feel like they are like, I don't know how to explain, because they're almost like the attack dogs. Like, your red, white, and blue attack dog can save you now, Mr. President. Like, I just wanted them to be like more, I guess. Like, the Jedi are just so boring and so useless, and they get dicked on all the fucking time. Kit Fisto fucking gets fucking rocked. Like, they're just so fucking boring,
remember
dude.
His name. Well, yeah, the idea is that the Jedi are like the peacekeepers, like the arm of the law, like they're space cops of the
Yeah.
Republic, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is they're also playing them as like this order of wise monks who
Yeah.
are like in tune with the Force and they cut off their own emotions because that is a path to the dark side, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes them, one, seem really boring, as you said, but also it makes them seem like they basically played themselves into their own downfall, which
Mm-hmm.
is like something you could say they're going for. Like the idea that, the Jedi denied Anakin the chance to go see his mom again because that's a connection.
I said
and so
that.
the Jedi kind of, they played themselves into their own downfall,
Yep.
But if they're going that way, it just makes them look so dumb, and they're supposed to be the people we're following for all this. And I guess we're supposed to be following Anakin and feeling his own frustrations with all this. But it's just, like, it's a combination of it being, like, it might be more forgivable if it wasn't so fucking boring.
Yeah. I think it may have, once again, rewriting Star Wars. It might be cooler if they would have made a Jedi Order like a party who isn't on any side. They are the Jedi Order, so they are like they're just
neutral.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that would have been really cool to play. That some Jedi are like, well, I believe that this is right, and the other Jedi is like, well, I believe that this is right. They side with the Separatists, and the other side with the
And they had the feeds for that with Qui-Gon, who's like, I'm going to train the boy anyway, despite what they said.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't really do anything more with that other than Anakin being denied the chance to actually, like, feel proper emotions,
Yeah.
And they have the whole dumb thing about, like, them not being allowed to love, and him and Padme having this forbidden relationship. And then she has that dumb line where she's like, I can't be in love with you. I'm a senator. It's like, what does that mean? Like, can senators not have fucking spouses? Like, what?
Right.
It's like, I get Anakin not being allowed to because they have a stupid rule saying he's not allowed to, but you, like, that doesn't make sense. But it's just, I don't know, man.
Right.
It's really, I don't know. It's just so half baked, and there's just it could be cool to explore more of the ideas, but they don't.
Yep.
Also, they're really dumb because they're like, Anakin, you're not allowed to love. You need to cut off your emotions, and right now you're getting really emotional.
Yep.
Anyway, we're gonna go send you to be Padme's bodyguard on her own planet.
Right.
So
I
remember
us talking about this. I was like, why would they let him do that if they know how he feels?
Yeah,
it's just really fucking stupid. Obi-Wan spends his time not being around Anakin, though he's like his master. Like,
it's like such a wasted opportunity. You should be building those two characters' relationships, except they're apart for the entire fucking movie. And they do the same thing in the third one too.
Yet somehow this is Obi-Wan's fault. Because that's fucking stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I laughed because it was so fucking stupid. It literally made me like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, I know we're jumping around, but it's like, how does this correlate with Obi-Wan when you spent this whole movie not being by Obi-Wan? Like,
because I don't know. I think Obi-Wan's just like the representation of his frustrations with the Jedi Order as a whole.
Though that could be cool if they spent more time together, it still doesn't negate the idea that they aren't together. Had they been together this whole movie, and he says that, it's like, yeah, you're not frustrated with Obi-Wan himself. You you might be a little frustrated with him, but you're frustrated with the rules that the Jedi Order has set for you, that Obi-Wan's just following because he too is a Jedi. Like,
yeah, it's
sorry, go ahead.
More to the core theme of the movie. Where are you at with the chemistry and relationship between Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman? You think this there? You think the Riz is there?
The biology there. I don't know about the chemistry though. Yeah, no, dude. Like I said, I don't have anything new to add to this conversation, but that shit is like some cheeks. That is like some pure dog water. Like,
yeah. It's very.
No,
it's so weird.
Love you. Is that in this movie?
No, damn. I'm so in love with you.
I was so in love with you.
Your love has blinded you. in this movie, it's so weird though because they just make him come off as so fucking creepy.
Oh
Dude.
man, I
He's
remember.
just like staring at her, and she's like, "Please don't stare at me. It makes me uncomfortable." And he just like gets the creepiest grin on his face. Oh my god!
Right? She's like, "No, I can't do that." He's like, "You have to. Like, we are in love with each other. You have to know that. I've dreamed about you every day since you've been gone. That's weird, Anakin. That's
I am,
fucking weird."
I am haunted by the kiss I never should have given you.
God, it's just fucking crazy,
Yeah,
man.
and the fact that oh my god, and the fact that so they leave Naboo and they go back to Tatooine because Anakin wants to go see his mom,
Right?
who he
This is
hasn't
cool.
seen in 10 years.
Yeah.
And he finds out that his mom was bought out of slavery by another guy who then married her, which is like, that seems a bit suspect, but I guess we're not going to go into that. So they go see him, and he's like, nah, a few weeks back she was taken by the Tusken Raiders. And he's like, oh, okay. So Anakin goes off, and he finds his mom, and she dies. And then he proceeds to murder the entire village full of Tusken Raiders. And then he goes back to Padme, and he admits to her that he murdered an entire village, and not just the men, but the women and the children too.
Yep.
And he says, "I hated them, and I slaughtered them like animals." And then she
I
proceeds
slaughtered
to
them. They are animals, so I slaughtered them like animals, I think is what he
say,
said.
I think that's right.
I remember. I quoted it a lot afterwards.
And she's like, it's okay to be angry or something. And it's like, man, they're so in love. How can you see how she wouldn't fall in love with someone like this? You know, someone who's going on a megalomaniacal rage about how he is going to have, like, he's going to take control of the power of the Force and use it to stop people from dying, and how he had that speech earlier about how we should enforce a totalitarian government where only one person is in charge.
You know, you brought this up, but I think, like, I wonder what George Lucas is thinking when he's like, "Oh wait, I made Anakin way too evil in this movie.
Yeah,
I gotta tone this down."
and you see that at the start of the third one where he's like, you know, he's like, we got to go back and give those guys a hand, you know, and like, no, I'm not gonna leave you, Master. I'm gonna help you out, you know.
Yeah, he feels more like Luke in that.
We can't leave
third
Obi-Wan
movie
behind. Yeah. Because they had to like course correct when it should have been that kind of Anakin in the second movie, and then the third one should have been more like slaughtering an entire village full of Tusken Raiders, and then talking about how he slaughtered them, not just the men, but the women and the children too. They're animals, and he slaughtered them like animals.
It's okay though, because it's alright to be angry, so he's allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants to.
Yeah.
I hate this idea.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say the idea of the movie is getting them together, and there's no there's no chemistry there, so it doesn't work.
Yes,
and that's why I think this movie is honestly a bigger failure of what it was trying to do than Phantom Menace. But I think this movie is more entertaining to watch.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like I said, before I comment,
at least for a first timer, I think if we were to watch it again, it would be a lot more boring.
Oh, okay, fair. Yeah, I have a really big issue with this whole, like, Anakin comes to Tatooine, he beats the guy who bought his mom, and the guy's just like, yeah, your brother got kidnapped, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go rescue her. He's like, we tried that. It won't help, right? But I guess because the movie hashes this up so quickly by Anakin going there and just, you know, slaughtering her and she dies, it almost feels like this was this point. Sorry, it's like Anakin's only here for this, right? And it's like
it's all very written,
right? This guy is just like, he doesn't care. It's not even like he's like, I loved your like mom so much. Okay, I'll go fucking with you to go save her. Like,
well, he can't because of his leg.
Anyway, it's just really fucking dumb and it's just really rushed, and it doesn't feel why are we here?
Here's the thing: is that they needed to establish Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru as like characters on Tatooine, so that Luke can be brought to them at the end of the third movie. But we also need, like, to do that, we're introducing like the father of Owen, I think, and he apparently married Anakin's mom, and that's how Luke and Anakin are also kind of partially related. And that's why that's his uncle and aunt. But I don't know. It's yeah. I agree with you. It's just very uh, it just feels so plastic and so we're here because the story needs us to be here. You know, like Anakin's here because I don't even remember the exact reason they go there. Was it like it was like a premonition or something?
Yeah,
Like,
he heard his mom screaming, like Anakin.
Yeah, so it's just like the Force made them do it. You know, it's a lot. That's the answer to a lot of
and
why people do things in these movies. So that the Force made them do it. You know,
and it's the whole mirror of like he hears his mom screaming, he goes save her, she dies. He hears Padme screaming. He goes, she dies.
Like I get what they're doing with that, but I think there are better ways to write characters than just having prophetic dreams guide them. But then again, I'm the kind of person who really doesn't give two fucks about prophecy stories. You know?
True, but I think what really is egregious in this movie is the fact that you don't need that simply because the plot has already set that up that he could just go back because he misses his mom. Him having prophetic dreams doesn't add anything. Like it shouldn't add a more of a reason for him to go. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I think it would have been neat to have like Padme have some kind of effect in that, where they talk it out. He as they're getting closer, he talks to her about his mother, and she's like, well, and she maybe brings up the idea maybe they could go back for her. But I think it like doing it that way would make it seem like, well, why didn't he do this in the last 10 years, you know?
Yeah, but the reason why he doesn't go is because of the Jedi. And setting up that would also, you know, I think it all could have worked once again. Like, there's things there that could have prevented him from going. I think the Jedi keeping him away from his mom is something, once again, that would have been interesting to tell as the Jedi if they are a lawful neutral like thing. Like they're just like, hey, we respect that, but we think you're the chosen one and we want to keep you here because going back for your mom really has no merit and weight for us. Like whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
She's
so
just a slave like the other slaves. So she should be slaughtered like a slave. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Moving back to Geonosis, though, we get Count Dooku. Where are you at with Count Dooku? Played by the illustrious Christopher Lee.
Count Dooku. Acting's fine. I thought that was fine.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. Him as a character, though, I like the idea of Palpatine using him, but I don't like the idea of him throwing him away just because he's noticed Anakin, because it doesn't make any sense.
So here's the thing, is that Dooku, I think, might be one of the worst examples of missed potential in the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm mainly speaking about the scene after Obi-Wan gets captured and he has like a one-on-one with Dooku. And Dooku's like, you know, the Dark Lord is powerful, but if you join me, Obi-Wan, we could overthrow him.
Yeah.
And for one, they're just doing like a join me, Luke, and we'll destroy the Emperor and rule the galaxy. You know, they're just doing like a copy of that. But beyond that, I wish they would explore if Dooku was actually like being serious or not. Because we don't ever actually get an answer if Dooku is actually offering Obi-Wan to overthrow the Emperor, or not the Emperor yet, but overthrow the Phantom Menace with him. We just never get any kind of clarification on that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Obi-Wan's noble and he would never entertain an offer like that. But it's like, why would you float that as an offer? Like, why would you create that kind of story moment?
True.
If you're never actually going to elaborate on, like, Dooku's greater motivations or whatever. Like, what is, like, Dooku was, you know, they talk about he was a Jedi. What is his motivation for
That's
becoming
true. We don't even know why
he... We have no idea. We're never told. We have no idea why he became a Sith. And our only clarification on why he is the leader of the Separatists is because, you know, he's working with Palpatine, and Palpatine wants to create this war that he's controlling both sides of, you know?
Yeah.
And then as soon as he doesn't need Dooku anymore, he throws him away. And I think that's a neat idea. I just wish we got to know Dooku more as a character, but we have no idea what he's like. You know?
That's true.
Very, very, very bad. Um, so
We haven't talked
they
about
go
your
for it.
boy Yoda, and
Yeah.
I kind of want to get
No.
your opinion on Yoda because we're kind of getting into like we're heading kind of into this, like the third act, and Yoda shows up all gun ho, and I want like I need to know.
Concentrate all your fire on the nearest starship.
I need to like get your opinion on Yoda in these movies because
Did you get the idea that I hate Yoda in these
do
movies?
you hate Yoda? I thought you really liked him because he like fucking pulls out a lightsaber and fights Dooku.
Oh man, I'm really happy that that's what you think of me, but unfortunately, no. I'll talk about that. I want to talk really quick about the lead up to that because Padme and fucking Anakin go to Geonosis to rescue Obi-Wan, and they have like the whole like action scene, if you want to call it that, in the droid factory.
I really don't like it. I don't like the way it's shot. I don't like the way like the cuts are in that scene.
Yeah,
It's really weird. Is it? Yeah. No.
I think there's neat moments, but I also think it's just kind of gratuitous, if you want to use the proper definition of that word.
Yeah.
It's just there's no real reason for it to be there other than just
Oh.
have another action sequence.
Right. We do have the termite people. So
I like the Geonosis.
Yeah.
I think it's a neat, and I love the little detail that you can kind of see because they're the ones who like have always been behind the scenes building the battle droids, and they actually see the battle droids have like they almost kind of have the same kind of like skeletal feature.
Yeah.
Like they kind of look like the termite people, and I think that's really neat. But they do the whole arena sequence where you get to see them fight these big monsters. I think that's kind of neat.
Mhm.
They don't have their lightsabers with them, so they just have to use their wits. I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And then
The Jedi show up.
The Jedi show
With the
up,
clones.
and well, first Mace Windu shows up with the Jedi to save Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme, and like 200 Jedi die in the process. And we never really get any kind of like closure on the after effects of that, which I think is great. That's a good thing. But yeah, the clones show up and they have a big fight, and Mace Windu kills Jango Fett, and Boba Fett's like, "No, my dad's dead. Now I have to become a villain or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And they go after Count Dooku, and there's a big fight scene between the two armies. And Anakin and Obi-Wan go, and they fight Count Dooku, and he just kind of whoops their asses, and Anakin gets his arm cut off because it's a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
All right, so Yoda.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's nothing new. We've already talked about it, but like I love Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. I love Yoda in Return of the Jedi with how brief he is in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was one of my favorite characters just in terms of how he expanded the mythos of the series. And in this prequel trilogy, he is just so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
He is afflicted by the whole plot-itis of the dark side is clouding my judgment, and it just paints him in such a terrible light, on top of him being the main cause of Anakin going to the dark side by denying him his emotions. And it is just such a betrayal of everything I loved about him.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they give him a lightsaber, and he does a bunch of fights. Well, he does 2 fights. He gets a fight in the second movie and a fight in the third movie. And once again, it's just one of those things where I did not need to see Yoda doing a bunch of spin flips and fighting someone who's 3 times his height, I didn't need to see that. I didn't really want to see
so
that.
cool because he has a lightsaber and it's Yoda.
So my problem with it is that Yoda was just like, we never really got to see what he could really do in the original trilogy. He was always this mentor figure who seemed to just have this vast knowledge of the Force that he wanted to pass on to Luke, and he passed it on to Obi-Wan,
Yeah.
But we never really got to understand what his limit was. And I think that's great because, again, the imagination is so much more powerful in that department. And yet in this movie, in Attack of the Clones, we get to see him basically fight Count Dooku to a stalemate, and then he has to stop a giant pillar from falling on Anakin and Obi-Wan while Count Dooku gets away.
Yeah.
So he has a stalemate with one Jedi, and then he gets a fight with Palpatine.
And he loses.
Yeah, where it's like he and Palpatine like blow each other away because they have like this thing where he shoots lightning and Yoda like absorbs it or whatever, he blocks it, and then like a big explosion sends them both flying back. And yet Yoda, after they both fly back, he just like escapes into the crawly
in exile.
Areas.
I must go.
I must go into exile. It's like I didn't feel like he lost, you know?
Yeah,
that's my biggest
neither.
problem with it, is that like the fight didn't really seem to have a conclusion.
No.
Like it seemed evenly matched. It seemed like they were both doing fine, and then Yoda just gets blasted back, but so did the Emperor, and then Yoda just like instead of going back and keep fighting, he just like runs away.
Yeah.
And puts himself into exile. And that's another thing I'm going to talk about when we talk about the Revenge of the Sith, is like how they ended it. But yeah, it just makes Yoda looks like such a fucking wuss.
Yeah.
And that is the most insulting thing I think you could do with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate it. I legitimately hate it. It is one of those things that makes me legitimately hate. And it's another one of those things where even though people love the Clone Wars, right? The Dave Filoni series.
Yeah.
I from what I've seen of it, I do enjoy it. I still fucking hate Yoda. I fucking hate, because even in the fucking Clone Wars, he is still fucking doing flips and killing droids and shit. And I'm just like, it's just not him. Like, he is a wise master of the Force who shouldn't have to pull out a lightsaber. He should be the kind of guy who could just like raise his hand and fucking like blow your head up with the Force if you really want to, but he doesn't need to because he's just like so above it all, you know?
All right.
And say what you want about The Last Jedi, but like they did an effort to try and bring Yoda back to a place where I enjoy him more. You know,
he's in there. I didn't know that.
Sort of.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to that when we talk about the
Fair.
originals. So yeah, it's pretty bad. But yeah, anything else about Attack of the Clones? Or
yeah, no, I don't have anything about Attack of the Clones. I think I kind of went on my whole rant about my big issues by Anakin. Usually, I think about these movies, it's usually Anakin, just because I'm made to believe that like these prequels are supposed to be setting up his characters, but it kind of just feels like a lot of like trash around him, you know, and him, and he's the trash too. But it's just like everything around
Skywalker.
Yeah, it's not good, dude. It's really not.
All right.
But yeah.
So
I think
Revenge of the Sith is our final movie. Overall thoughts? Because this is the one that people
really like.
People like this one a lot more than the other two.
I think people like this movie. You know, like
genuinely like it.
Yeah, okay. Like genuinely think this is a pretty good movie.
All right, I don't, but
yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think it suffers.
This one has some of my least favorite stuff in the entire trilogy, but you know,
like
I will say it is a better movie.
Yeah, I think. Okay. I want to talk about the things I do like, because I think one thing that we sometimes don't do in the other two movies is like talk about what we do like. I say there's good things or whatever, but that's, you know, I think
the good things are a lot more apparent in the third movie.
Yeah, I think the visuals have come along. Like by this time, they really got the visuals down packed. It looks really good.
Well, for the most part.
Well, yes, for the most part. Like,
I mean, the problem is just still like the third movie is kind of the epitome. I think one of my least favorite things about the third movie is that it's kind of gotten to the point where it's like every single scene is just people on a blue stage.
Yeah,
and it doesn't need to be that way. They can have people on actual sets, but George Lucas doesn't want to do that because he just wants to be able to like create whatever background or whatever environment he wants to do. And it just makes the entire movie look like a fucking bad video game, you know?
Yeah, there's the scene with R2-D2, the one where he sets the droids on fire. If you really, well, to me, when I look at that scene, like the proportion seems weird because the camera's like
Mm.
lower and it makes R2D2 look really huge.
Yeah, I could see that in my mind.
Yeah, and like that's kind of like really strange. But I think overall the experience, what Lucas wanted to go for, it does look better compared to like the CGI itself looks pretty
It
decent.
does, but it's just one of those things where in the first movie there are scenes I can think of in my mind where they're actually like on location. Like there are scenes on Tatooine where they went back to Tunisia to film, you know, and they're actually in the desert doing those scenes. Whereas like in the second movie and especially in the third movie, just every single scene is just two people walking and talking on a fucking blue stage, and it is so fucking distracting.
It's the third movie when Anakin's talking to Padme and like it cut like they're walking, it cuts to them further along, but they're having the same like conversation. Like
yeah. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe. Okay. I don't actually. I remember bringing that up. But I don't remember if that was the second or the third one. But yeah. Anyway.
Well, the only reason because I think that's like all blue screen, of course. So that's the only reason I brought that up.
Yep.
Sorry. Well, damn. What was that? Oh, I was just talking about things I liked. I think the acting is a little bit better in this one. Though,
yeah, it is.
You know,
it is. There's still moments of like, dude, what are you doing? Yeah. But no, generally, like, and especially with the two main leads, I think they're actually like when they actually have good chemistry, you know, and they're doing a lot better than the second movie.
Yeah. How do you feel about the ending of like them talking to each other in the ending, like the dialogue and like them coming across like the from my point of view, Jedi
doing great. I think the dialogue is bad.
Okay.
But I think the actors are like they're doing the best. I think in all these movies, I think the actors are trying to do the best that they can with bad dialogue and bad direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mainly where I'm at.
Okay.
That's why I always say like I don't blame the actors for any of this. I blame George Lucas not being an actor's director, as it were.
Yeah. Also, like Anakin's fit.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just starting right out. As I've made it clear to you before, I love the opening scene of the third movie. It's just this like gorgeous display of action and especially music. Oh my god. John Williams' rendition of like the combination of the heroic music with the Imperial March with like the general action theme is so good, and I really like it.
Yeah, John Williams. We haven't talked about him much in these trilogies, but he's really the
I mean, yeah,
star.
It's like what is there to say? He's one of the most prolific fucking composers of all time. He's incredible.
Yeah.
But one thing to talk about with this movie is that like it has the whole thing where, you know, you're kind of dumped into the middle of it, and if you didn't watch the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone War series, you're missing a lot of context, and you're just kind of like filled in by the title role. Yeah. Like, hey, the Chancellor's been kidnapped, and this guy named General Grievous is responsible. Like, he kidnapped him.
Yeah,
it's like, who the fuck is General Grievous? Like, what the capital is under attack.
And why is he sick? Why is he coughing? That's the big mystery.
They explain it. Don't you worry, we'll watch it someday.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, where are you at with General Grievous?
I think he's a character that could have been cool, but I don't give a fuck about him because I don't know much about him. And every time we see him, he's running away. And the one time he does fight,
I'm glad you noticed that. I'm glad you noticed that he's just a giant fucking coward.
He's like,
because it's just so funny.
Shit's going wrong. Get a space pod.
Time to abandon ship.
And then, like, the one time he does fight, he gets fucking dicked on by fucking Obi-Wan. Yeah, so it's like,
and I'll talk about that, but it's so funny comparing him to the fucking Genndy series because that's supposed to set up, like, it's meant for, like, hey, if you watch it before you watch Revenge of the Sith, you're going to get rewarded. But he's so fucking intimidating and so competent in that series.
Yeah.
And yet he's just such a fucking loser in this movie. It's like a completely different character.
Also, the Genndy Tartakovsky one came out like after, right? Or
no, it came out before.
It really did come out before?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Holy fuck!
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it was one of those things where it's like you it was meant to actually set up to go into Revenge of the Sith if
Yeah.
you watched it. Like it literally ends right as Revenge of the Sith is starting in terms of the story.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, we got Death Count Dooku. Yeah, got any thoughts on that?
Yes. So
Fight.
my issue with the fight was I remember bringing this up. Is like I want Anakin to be more hesitant, more like, well, a combination of a lot of things. I want him to be more furious. I want him to be more hesitant, be more scared that the fact that the nigga that cut off his fucking hand is in the same room as him right now.
But
And
Chris,
like the
his
last time they
powers
saw,
doubled
like,
since the last time they fought.
the fuck. Anyway, the last time they saw each other, like, you know, it was a scary thing that happened. Like, I want to see PTSD, you know, and I'm not getting that. It's just like Anakin's just like, oh, you're here? I'm going. It's not going to be the same way it was last time, Dooku. It's like, who are you? Are you Goku or are you Anakin? Like, you're a human, dude. Like, you got your arm fucking cut off. Like, I just need more, dude. Like,
oh man, that's funny. I will say I actually really enjoy the whole sequence of them making their way through the ship. I like the hijinks they get into. I like the little action set pieces, just all throughout. I honestly do really enjoy the first act of this movie, all the way up through the landing. Yeah, but I will agree that there's some they could be doing better with the whole confrontation with Dooku and Anakin. Anakin being like, "No, I can't kill him. It's not the Jedi way."
Right.
And then Palpatine saying, "Do it," and then he just does it. It's like, wow, you didn't need that much convincing.
Yeah, it's strange. Like, I agree with you though. I don't like. I really do like the beginning of this film. Like, I even like a little bit after where like you know, the whole elevator thing and all that. I thought that was pretty funny, even though it doesn't really make sense where Palpatine was when they were falling. But hey, we could get past that. But yeah, no, I was just, like I said, from a character development standpoint, I definitely wanted more out of Anakin and Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan was fucking knocked out because Obi-Wan sucks.
And in my mind, I'm trying to think of like what was Palpatine's plan going into this. I guess the whole plan was just to get Dooku killed, and then hopefully to get Obi-Wan killed because he was like vouching for him to like leave Obi-Wan behind, but they ended up not doing that.
Yeah, I think it was a win-win for him.
He needed Obi-Wan to go kill Grievous. I don't know, man.
Well, I think he would have sent anybody to kill Grievous. I think Grievous was like a second. Like, okay, so...
Well, he needed Grievous because he was like, we can't end the war until General Grievous is dead. Like, the whole reason was that he needed the war to keep going so that the Senate would continue to vote him emergency power. And he said that the Senate will not vote to end the war until General Grievous is dead. So, that was the whole importance of him.
Yeah, I feel like he probably would have just sent any, like, Jedi to...
Yes,
like, maybe like Mace Windu.
Setting up this... Yeah, he could have, but I don't know. I feel like if you're setting up this character of General Grievous as like this Jedi killer who has all these lightsaber trophies of the people he's killed before, but I guess they didn't really do that because he turned out to be a fucking loser. But whatever. Whatever. I'm not gonna dwell too much on. It's the futility of trying to figure out Palpatine's plan is never worth going into. I guess.
Fair. Like I said, I just think like the whole idea of like Palpatine creating like Anakin is cool. I do think it's a cool concept. It just doesn't make any sense when we have the movie where he's like, Anakin's kind of strong. I would use him now. Because it's like, oh, like it was just coincident that he saw Anakin now. Like he wanted to use him. But wait. No, because then they set up the whole thing that him and Anakin been friends. Oh, dude, I don't know. That movie, that shows up in this movie. Like it didn't feel established until this movie where they're like, yes, me and Anakin have been friends this whole time. Like, what?
Yeah, I think another thing that creates a dissonance is that they also give Palpatine like 2 fight scenes in this movie. And it's the same thing with Yoda, where I don't think, and especially with Palpatine, honestly, where I don't think he should be doing lightsaber fights because it really lessens the feeling that he needs Anakin. Like, I feel like with Palpatine, it makes a lot more sense if he needs Anakin as like his fist, you know? He needs him as the weepon. Whereas he's like the brains behind the operation. He uses him
in the original trilogy as the fist.
He does. He's the guy who goes in with the army and he gets shit done, you know? And I feel that makes a lot more sense. Like he uses Anakin to wipe out the Jedi, wipe out the Separatists, and then he's the dude. But that's kind of diluted when Palpatine himself can take on 4 fucking Jedi, by himself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think they could have just left him as the cackling evil mastermind who can shoot lightning if he really needs to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he should be doing spin flips through the air to kill people.
So maybe because I do feel a little different from you in that sense of I'm okay with the Sith Lord holding like a lightsaber. Same thing with fucking Yoda, right?
Sure.
I think my issue comes with everything surrounding it in the sense of like I don't think the Yoda Dooku fight should have happened. I think that's fucking stupid. It looks dumb, like Yoda flipping around. But I would say I think it would be cool if Yoda's like at the end of the day, he is a Jedi Master. So I would assume that he was really good with a lightsaber. Maybe he put the lightsaber down because he has unlocked the true knowledge of what the Force is.
Like so he's transcended he's transcended above the need to ever use it.
Exactly.
Like he's so far beyond like the dirtiness of getting into a fucking sword fight.
Right. Like when fucking Obi-Wan shoots the gun, he goes primitive, right?
So uncivilized.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Yoda, how he feels about the saber. But that's why it would be so powerful of when the Sith Lord actually does show up. He's like, oh, I have to pick up the very thing that that would have been. I'm cool with that.
I can see that. I can see that. That's a good argument.
Same thing with obviously Palpatine's like, oh, this is a Jedi. Like this is the oh, we are on the same level because we both understand the Force. We just agree with it in different ways.
You could do that, or like if you have that set up, you could have them do like just the craziest fucking awesome Force battle you've ever seen, where they just use like these crazy applications of the Force that you wouldn't even be able to dream of, But I could see both ways.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so after the first act, they once again separate our 2 main characters. We also find out Padme's pregnant.
Yeah, which the separation of the characters would be fine in this movie. If we got the setup of the other 2 movies of the 2 characters. But either way,
it would make sense in this movie if they weren't separated in the last movie. Padme needs to be pregnant in this movie because we have to set up the original trilogy, and they also kind of co-opt it as a motivation for Anakin because he has premonitions about her dying. Is like, I mean, that's fine. If you want to use that like that, it's like a 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. That's fine.
Yeah.
Fucking Obi-Wan goes to Utapau to fight Grievous. I'm just gonna get that out of the way. I always remember this being a fight that I got really excited about, and then it just feels like it's over so quickly because I remember. I don't know if this translated to you, but as a kid, seeing a motherfucker pull out 4 fucking lightsabers at once was like the most mind-blowing fucking thing as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And it's like he starts spinning them and walking forward, and he has 2 by his side at the ready, and then he starts fighting with all 4 of them. And it's like 10 seconds into the fight, it feels like Obi-Wan's already taking him down with like 2 arms.
He literally disarms him. Literally.
He takes out one of his arms in like the first 5 seconds of the fight, I swear.
Yeah.
It's just like I feel like you could have done so much more, but I also feel like they just didn't want to try and choreograph that.
Yeah, especially with the CGI and like the computers at the time, probably just didn't want to bother. But I agree. I think seeing Force lightsaber, like it looks cool. It looks really dope. Even the spinning lightsaber thing is really cool. It's just they don't do anything with it. Especially like a scene like obviously the scene from Clone Wars. It would be dope to also, how I love asymmetrical fighting, just to have 2 Jedi fight fucking Grievous and like he's like defending from both sides, like
yeah. And then they get to the part where they're like fighting just like with whatever they can get. I'll always love the part where everyone just like kicks him. He's like, oh fuck. That part's so great. It also reminds me that I didn't really talk about much, but I actually do kind of like the fight in Attack of the Clones where he's fighting Jango Fett on Kamino.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up because I wanted to say one thing I really love in Star Wars movies is non lightsaber fighter against a
Yeah.
lightsaber fighter. It's always cool to me. They always choreograph it really cool to me. One of the
Yeah,
only things I've seen.
I remember that being kind of it was just like it brought up the idea that we kind of kept with the running joke we had with this series where it's like Obi-Wan's like the kick master.
Yeah.
Like he's always got these kicks going on. It's
Right.
funny.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's one thing. I hate to bring up the acolyte, but there's a scene where like the one of the like main Jedi guys, like his saber gets thrown. So like the villain is like, oh, like I fucking got you dead to rights, and he just starts swinging on him, like, and like, well, I mean, like he's throwing haymakers, and he's like literally just basically doing kung fu. That shit is so cool. I'm like, well, I need more of this, you know.
I'll
But
check
yeah.
that out at some point. All right, so that's mainly what goes on, and he kills Grievous with a blaster. He's dead. I do like the effect of like Grievous like on fire, and then like the fire comes out of his eye holes in his
Yeah.
little mask. I thought that was kind of neat. Meanwhile, with Anakin, what's Anakin doing at this time? He's just kind of being dicked around by the council.
Yeah.
And they have him do like a Naruto thing where they have him as like a double agent spying on the chancellor and then spying on the council for both sides, kind of.
And I brought this up to Riley.
Yeah.
So they want a double agent. They want him to be playing both sides. But they're also establishing that they kind of don't trust Anakin. That's kind of what they've been doing this whole movie. So why not have someone else watching Anakin too? Like,
yeah, they set up
seems
that
weird.
like Anakin is getting close with Palpatine because Palpatine is the one who like understands him and is like emotionally connecting with him.
Mhm.
And they set up that the council, and especially like Mace Windu, knows that and understands that it's dangerous to keep them together. And yet they continue to say like, "Hey, you need to be they force it on the council kind of when Palpatine's like, Anakin's going to be my liaison between me and you guys." And he puts Anakin on the council, like forces the council to put Anakin up with them.
Mhm.
And I get that, but they also kind of make like I do think the Jedi do put too much like trust in Anakin to help tell them about what Palpatine's up to. You know?
Yeah.
Like I think you might have even mentioned when we were watching. They should have just had a separate guy be the person who's trying to spy on Palpatine,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
instead of the guy who is Palpatine's like ear to the council.
Right.
You know.
It's strange.
Like because they can't trust him, you know. They even say that. Fucking, you get the opera scene. I had mentioned when we started watching, I'm like, oh, this is a scene everyone really likes.
Yeah.
No, you're not thrilled by it.
Oh no, I it's like cool. I think in any other movie, I might have liked this scene more.
Okay, so
I think the acting is really nice. I love like what Palpatine is saying and like doing, but I think at the same time it's like, but it's in this movie. It's in this series.
so
of
here's
movies.
the thing, right? The opera scene is a masterclass of just villainous acting by
Yeah.
Ian McDiarmid. The problem with it is that it makes Anakin just look so fucking dumb
Mhm.
when Palpatine is like, oh, let me tell you about this Sith legend about a Sith Lord who used the dark side of the Force to stop people from dying,
Yeah.
potentially even in childbirth, Anakin. And it makes Anakin like so dumb that he doesn't even figure out that Palpatine's talking about his own situation now, and that he doesn't figure out that Palpatine like why does Anakin not ask him like, hey, why do you know about the dark side? Like, why do you know about this Sith legend? Like, that's kind of weird, isn't it? But one thing I fucking love about this scene is when he's telling the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and it becomes clear that, you know, he is the apprentice in this story who murders his master after learning everything. And I love the little the expression he does where, you know, he's talking about how, like, you know, he after his apprentice learned everything, he murdered him in his sleep. And then he has this pause and it zooms in on his face and he says, ironic, he could save others from death, but not himself. And when he says ironic, like there's like it's become a meme, like the gif of him saying ironic.
Yeah.
But I love the cheeky little look he gets. Like you can tell he is just taking so much joy in the fact that he murdered his master and stole all of his knowledge.
Yeah.
Like it's such a great piece of acting. Yeah, I can just put. Yeah, I have the gif right there, and that, like, you just see in his eyes, like he has like his tongue pressed up against like the bottom of his mouth when he says
Yeah.
it for a sec. It's just like you can tell he is just having so much fun with this. It's so good. It's one of my favorite pieces of acting in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, so beyond that, I guess we can just skip ahead to the because there is like a bunch of stuff with Anakin and Padme and her being like them having a love talk and her being like, I'm not gonna die in childbirth, Anakin, and him be like, no, I dreamed you're gonna die in childbirth, and then Yoda being like, you're afraid that someone you love is going to die. You're not allowed to love. You know, you should stop your feelings because emotion leads to the dark side.
Death is all around us.
It's like thank you, Yoda, thank you. But we can skip ahead to the reveal because for some reason
Dooku
Anakin
being
needs
like, I mean, not Dooku, Palpatine being like, yeah, Anakin, you're a fucking idiot. I am the Sith.
And this is one of the like most what the fuck things in this movie is that Palpatine basically figured out that Anakin did not catch on that he's the Sith Lord, so he basically has to tell him again, but more clearly. It's so fucking funny, but also makes Anakin look so fucking dumb. He pretty much just has to come out and say, like, yes, I'm actually the Sith Lord. I'm the one you've been searching for.
You
So
can't kill
Anakin
me.
goes back.
I'll save Padme.
Well, I do love when he's like, are you going to kill me? He's like, I would certainly like to. Not a great line read there. But he's like, I know you would. I can feel your anger. It gives you focus. It's like, dude, he's so good. But then Anakin goes to Mace Windu and tells him, hey, I think Palpatine is the Sith Lord. And Mace Windu is like, a Sith Lord? So it's another one of my favorite lines to quote.
It sounds very Samuel L. Jackson.
And for some reason, Anakin doesn't just tell him, like, yeah, he just told me he's the Sith Lord. Like they get the idea across.
Yeah.
But it would have probably been a lot better if Anakin just, like, told him, yeah, he just told me, you know? And one of the things that Red Letter Media pointed out that I thought was really smart was that it was just kind of a pointing out of how blue screen focused this
scene
movie is, where it's like he's like, oh, this is bad. We must move quickly if the Jedi Order is to survive. And then they both just like start walking and talking.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a really urgent moment, but they only have so much room of blue screen to walk on, so they have to like walk kind of slowly. It just shows how fucking poorly made it is.
Yeah.
It's really funny. So Mace Windu goes with 3 other Jedi Masters to go confront Palpatine and arrest him.
Kid Fisto, baby. Sorry, go ahead.
Kid Fisto. Chris, your fucking reaction, dude, when Palpatine just flies through the air and murders 3 of these guys in the span of 5 seconds was so fucking funny.
Dude, it's the combination of him jumping across the fucking room and screaming. That shit was scary. Also, the Jedi fucking suck, dude. I fucking hate them, dude.
You fucking that was my favorite reaction of yours across the trilogies, was you watching those 3 Jedi just get killed without doing anything, dude. It was so fucking good.
So he jumps across the room, he spins, he doesn't attack first. He lands, he gets ready. Mace Windu also readies. He throws his fucking lightsaber, murders the guy immediately. The first guy just eats it. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I can find a good give of it, but yeah, it's very awkward. It's very clear that they just wanted to pare it down to a 1v1 really quickly. I don't know. I think it would have been. Nah, never mind.
What were you about to say?
I was gonna make a comment, but it wouldn't make sense about Palpatine controlling like people on the Jedi Council or something. But whatever, he needed Anakin in that position anyway. So they do the whole confrontation where Mace Windu gets him against the floor. He's like, it's over. And then Anakin's like, no, he must stand trial. And then Palpatine starts shooting lightning at Mace Windu while still saying, Anakin, the Jedi are trying to take over.
Dude.
It's so silly, especially in this moment. And even after Mace Windu dies, that Palpatine still goes with the idea of like, the Jedi have betrayed the Republic and we must destroy them. And it's like, you couldn't have just made it this moment of like, Anakin is doing this in desperation of trying to save the one he loves, and he's just so fed up with the Jedi Order denying him his emotional release.
Yeah, you set that up.
That he's going to go along with this. They still need it to be this underhanded way of making Anakin believe that the Jedi are trying to take over, you know?
So he can somehow convince Padme also that they're doing that, and Padme's like, that's fucking stupid, Anakin. Like,
and it's so dumb because Anakin was there. He was like, hey, he's a Sith Lord. And Mace Windu's like, all right, we're going to go arrest him. And then Anakin walks in. He sees 3 dead Jedi. And he sees, like, Palpatine on, like, the floor. And Mace Windu's like, all right, Palpatine, I'm going to arrest you now. And Anakin still doesn't put it together that Palpatine killed, like, those 3 Jedi. And then he shoots lightning at Mace Windu. He's like, maybe this guy's evil. And he's a Sith Lord. I don't know. It's so fucking dumb, man.
A part of me was like, like I thought like it was gonna be like what you said originally, what they set up of like he just like doesn't care, he just wants to save Padme. But then he goes like I just said, he goes to Padme and still says like the Jedi are like evil.
And at the end, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Yeah, it's just fucking. It's just
like that would have worked if it was connected more to his emotions and less about fucking an underhanded political scheme.
How you feel about Mace Windu? Mace Windu out the window.
There's no fucking reason for it's the dumbest casting choice it's probably not, but it's one of the dumbest casting choices in the trilogy, I think. Casting Samuel L. Jackson of all people to play a wise monk.
Yeah, it's kind of wasteful.
It's so dumb.
Could have got him to play Jango Fett.
Yeah, I guess.
Y'all clone me, motherfucker.
Fucking trying to, where was I? Yeah, so the whole scene after Mace Windu dies and Palpatine's like, yes, now we will enact our plan. They do the dumbest thing. I don't know if you noticed this. I'm sure you did, but they gave Palpatine like the most crazy fucking voice filter just in this one scene where he has like this horrible like frog voice filtered over his voice. And
is it just because he just got like he's like kind of gaining his power back?
Well, the whole thing is like, has he always looked like that evil monster face, or is that just like what the lightning did to him, or was like he had a disguise on and the lightning took the disguise away? I don't know. They never told us for sure. But the creepy frog voice thing, I've always wondered why it's only in that scene, and so I decided to look it up like yesterday. And from what I've read, and I don't know if this is true, but from what I've read, apparently George Lucas told them to put it in that scene just to like increase like the tone of the scene to just make it more like, to make him
ominous,
seem more evil, I guess.
Sorry.
And it's just like, it's just so weird, dude.
Whoever was there should have been like, no, George, that is
people
really
don't
stupid.
say no to George Lucas when they made these movies.
Oh, okay,
that's one of the biggest problems, is that no one could say no to George Lucas.
It's like that. I think maybe I brought this up on the pod. But it was like it's like Coppola making Apocalypse Now, where he put his fucking family in like bankruptcy and his like house is up for auction, and his wife is just like, yeah, I believed in his dream. I believed that he would get the money back. And it's like, your house is literally up for auction to make this movie. But hey, whatever, it worked out. But yeah, that's that's what I thought about when you said no one says no to fucking Lucas.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I think Anakin like pledging his service to Palpatine is probably one of the
The
worst
weakest.
scenes just in terms of writing. Like I think the actors are doing great, and I think they're doing like they're really having a good time with it. But yeah, in terms of the writing, it's just so it really feels like it's like, all right, we got less than an hour left in this movie. We really got to start, wrapping things up and make him evil.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's
It's
really
so much to the point where
bad.
like they literally just make him murder children. Like I know that's a joke. I know it's a meme. But when you really
Chris,
sit
they're
down and
called
think about it,
younglings.
shut up. When you really sit down and think about it, like they have to speed run this process. They have to make you believe that Anakin is the lowest of the low. So they make him kill little younglings. And it's like, why? Why did I need
Yeah,
this? You know,
it's just
like
an obvious emotional tug from the writers. It's
about these children that we never seen, or like, well, we've seen them, but like we don't care about them, right? So it's just the
yeah.
idea of just being children is what they're going off of. Like you said, it's just an emotional tug. Like,
Yeah. Um and while they're doing that, they also have like the whole Order 66 scene, which people really
which
like. Um
yeah, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, I think the music's very good. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a neat, like, moment of like, holy shit, Palpatine had this all planned, so he created the clones just as a means to kill off the Jedi once he got in the right position. I think that's neat.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the emotion isn't really there when they're killing off a bunch of characters we don't know and don't care about.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with all the movies. Like,
Yeah.
you have this cool scene that would be great if I cared.
And I know once again, this is our rewrite. So whatever, take it with a grain of salt. But this also would have been really cool, once again, had the Jedi been a neutral party, that when we get to this scene, the Order 66 is actually just Jedi against Jedi. So these Jedi that we've been liking their opinions on, oh, well, I believe that this is right, or I believe this is right. We've been watching this through these three films. When we get to this point, it's like, okay, well, we're clearly drawing the line here. We're evil, you guys are good, or whatever. We believe we're good. Yeah. And then we just have the Jedi fight each other, and then they kill each other. That would have been really cool and impactful to me. But anyway, having the clones do it, like I said, or like you said, seeing this scene I thought was cool, but it doesn't hold much weight when I see this random woman get gunned down in the woods. Like, okay.
Chris, her name is Ayla Sakura. Come on.
Okay.
All
Like
right.
B-list
So
Sakura.
just to kind of speed through the rest of this, we get Obi-Wan surviving, Yoda survives. They go back to Coruscant and they find out what Anakin did, and they decide that Yoda's going to stay and fight the Emperor. We already kind of talked about that. And
Yeah.
Yoda puts himself into exile. We also had Chewbacca in this movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I was hoping you wouldn't respond and we would just keep a nice silence there because that's what I feel about it.
But
Just a pointless
I mean,
fucking addition.
I don't know if this is fucking a hot take, but I don't really care about Chewbacca in the original either. So there's that. He's fine.
I like Chewbacca. I think Chewbacca provides a nice amount of levity. Yeah, and I think I think they do a good job of having someone who doesn't speak really play off well against Han Solo.
Yeah,
So,
well, he looks too much like the Wookiees, and I hate the Wookiees. So
Chewbacca looks too much like the Wookiees because he is one. What?
wait, what? Even the little guys are the little.
Oh, the Ewoks.
Oh, Ewoks. Sorry, yeah, he looks too much like
Okay.
those guys, and I don't like those guys.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so yes, Yoda, he puts himself in. Dude, I cannot believe, because I remember watching. Before we had watched these in preparation for this, I hadn't seen the prequels in a really long time. And so when I watched going back and watched the Cosmonaut video where he's talking about it, he does like an impression where he's like, I must go into exile. And I thought that was him just like making a joke about what the scene is. And then we were watching it and Yoda literally just says like, go into exile, I must. I'm like, he actually said that. Oh my God, dude, I can't fucking believe this movie. It just fucking tore my soul out when I heard that. I'm like, no, Yoda, why?
No, Yoda, why?
Yeah, I think the plot point of Anakin going and killing the Separatists is a way of basically just wiping out both sides of the war and ending it, making a timepiece where Palpatine is the Supreme Emperor. I think that's a neat idea. Just could have been executed better. And then you get Obi-Wan going and like stowing away with Padme to go to Mustafar to go fight Anakin, right?
Yep.
How
do you feel
what
about
are your thoughts?
No, damn. I was gonna say, how do you feel about Padme coming with Obi-Wan?
Well, she didn't know he was on the ship. She was just going to go get Anakin herself.
Yeah, that's true.
And Obi-Wan just stowed away on the ship.
Yeah. Which, I think, I was gonna say, I like her doing that. I think even though the chemistry wasn't there throughout these movies, I think character-wise, what they're going for, sure.
Well, the problem is Padme had like a really, like, despite how you feel about it, I think she had enough to do in the first two movies.
Oh yeah,
in this movie, it feels like they just didn't have enough for her to do.
It's like the Leia effect. I kind of feel like that with Leia in the original trilogy. Though Leia, I was gonna say, though I think Leia, like, she does do stuff in the third movie. Don't get me wrong, but I do feel like it was kind of like, what else do we do with this character? And it's even more egregious, I think, with Padme than Leia.
I don't know. I think Leia got plenty, honestly, in my opinion. But I don't know. It's a big movie. There's a lot of stuff going on. So
Leia's my favorite character in the original trilogy. So I'm
all right. So we get Anakin and Obi-Wan. And I think we already kind of went over it about, like, the actors are doing a good job. The lines are not doing them any favors. And then we have the fight itself. So where are you at with that?
A lot of people like this fight.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I do. It feels a little bloated, and it suffers from the issue that they're cutting between this and the Yoda fight.
Yeah.
And I much rather them handle the Yoda fight, this fight separately.
Yeah.
I don't like when movies do this. I think it's kind of silly. I say that even though, like, Infinity War is my favorite movie, but this is just handled so well. Like, we're watching, like, the fight on Titan in its complete fullness. You see what I'm saying? We're not like, at least I can't remember. Huh?
You know what I always actually kind of appreciate about Infinity War is they have the big fight in Wakanda, and then Thor shows up, like, as things are going really bad, and he, shows he's like, "Bring me Thanos," and that cuts right to Thanos arriving on Titan, and that fight begins. So, and they barely go back to Wakanda after that. So it is actually very, like, segmented in that regard.
Yeah.
They kind of stay on Titan pretty much entirely when they do that, just cutting over for, like, a couple brief instances. Yeah, so I don't know. Do you think it goes on? You said it was bloated.
Yeah, I
right?
feel like it's a little bloated. I think it goes on.
I think
too
most
long.
people think that.
Okay.
I think it just gets a little too excessive, where it's like they're like fucking Tarzan swinging against each other and like going on a river of lava. And
they're doing the thing where they like. I know we memed it, but they do that spinning thing, but I'm like, what? That looks stupid.
That is silly. I actually do like most of the fight before, like, during that part. I think once they get out of, like, the inside facility area, I think it just everything after that is just too much.
Yeah,
but I actually do like a lot of the choreography and what they do on the inside.
They
like,
do the force thing that you
fight.
always want, like, where they force push each other. That's cool.
And then the end, and
there's a scene where, like, Obi-Wan, like, he's like charging his sword at Anakin. Anakin, like, grabs his arm and does, like, a spin. Like, that shit was, like, really cool. I was like, the choreography is really fucking cool. But
but you get to the end, Obi-Wan wins and he leaves Anakin to die, and then Palpatine comes and saves him and turns him into Darth Vader. And we just get the horribly embarrassing no! Where is Padme?
She died.
No! In your anger, you killed her. And the Luke and Leia are born, and they get separated and sent to Alderaan and to Tatooine.
it's so weird with prequels, right? Because like when you get to these things, it's like, oh, okay, they had to get to this point, right? And it just always feels so weird to me because I'm like, why does it feel forced? Even though I know that this is where this was heading, you know what I mean?
can tell you exactly why, Chris.
Okay, go ahead.
And this is something. This is one of the things I've been waiting to talk about for the entire time we've been building up to this.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this has been said before, but I think this is one of the biggest flaws, especially in this movie, is that they set up the end of this movie to the point where essentially there is a 20 plus year time gap between the end of this movie and the start of A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking nothing happens in that fucking time period.
Yeah.
Literally nothing of interest happens in that 20 plus year time period.
Mm-hmm.
Even in after 20 years you get to A New Hope, and just then they talk about like the Emperor has officially dissolved the Senate. It's like, you're telling me that Emperor fucking Palpatine allowed the Senate to continue existing for 20 years into his reign as Emperor.
Right.
You're fucking telling me that he waited 20 years to finally dissolve it and take full control. That is ridiculous. You're telling me Obi-Wan didn't do anything in those 20 years of keeping an eye on Luke and Tatooine. You're telling me Yoda just sat in his fucking swamp.
If you look
for 20
into
years.
the Obi-Wan TV show, you'll find out that Obi-Wan actually went into exile with Yoda.
I didn't watch it.
I don't know. I think that's the plot of that show.
It's him. I don't remember. It's a very. It feels forced because it is. It's because they are forcing things into play to where you can look at it and be like, oh, it's just like how A New Hope is going to start. But it's like, it shouldn't be. There should be plenty of stuff that is still yet to happen between A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith, and yet they just don't do that. And so it feels like such a fake universe. It feels like it's written because it is, you know? They do such a terrible job of disguising it. It's one of the biggest weaknesses of prequel storytelling. Prequel storytelling has great benefits in a lot of areas. You can look at something like Better Call Saul for that. Like, that is a brilliantly written sequel where you're looking at the decisions the character's making, and despite knowing where it ends up, you desperately want things to go another way, knowing they won't. But you just have such an emotional attachment that you can't help but have this like feeling of hope that it might turn out a different way. This is like the exact opposite, where it's just like, you know how things are going to turn out, and it's just obvious that the writing is pushing it towards that direction, and there's going to be no kind of divergence that's going to help it.
Right, and the thing with Better Call Saul is it is also showing like the in between of like, you know, is also showing like what is happening between the gaps of where we are now and the prequel, you know. And I think with something like the prequels themselves, like they're not doing that. They're, like you said, it's just so written. Like it's like, okay, we gotta get to Luke. We gotta.
There's still stuff that they leave, like, you know, at the end of Better Call Saul, Tuca is still in prison. You know, he's not out on the streets being his own thing. Like, that's just something that happens between those, and we can infer that happens, and that's fine. You know, there's stuff like that, but I don't know, man. Ugh. You know, Gus finishes the laboratory in the time between. We don't get to see it. Like, by the time Better Call Saul ends, the underground lab is still just like an underground hole that isn't finished yet. And we just have to assume that he got it done in that time period in between. We don't need to see that, you know.
Right.
But, you know, we can't have this movie without seeing that they're already working on the Death Star, and they're already, you know, Vader's already in the suit. He's standing next to the Emperor. It took 20
years to make the Death Star. I guess it makes sense. This is a fucking
honestly, I could
world
see
destroyer.
that, but the thing is, at the end of the movie, it looks like it's like over halfway done. You know? Yeah. So there you go.
Good movies.
I don't think I have anything else. Yeah, man. It's there's something.
This was like the trenches for me. I'm way more excited to get into the sequels whenever we do that, because I will put my hand up into the sky and hold my right hand on the Bible and say, I am a Force Awakens defender. I can't speak for the other two. The other two can be completely trash, and that can ruin Force Awakens. I agree with all that, you know, whatever.
Yeah. It's been a few
But-
years since I've seen it, so it'll be nice to revisit it.
But Force Awakens, I think, if we had to rank the movies right now from every Star Wars thing I've seen, including Rogue One, it is probably my second favorite Star Wars movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow! All right,
Yeah.
Jesus. So
Yeah.
you like it better than what? A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back?
Rogue One. I like it. It goes. You said, do I like it more than A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back?
If it's second, then
Right, and I was
New
making a
Hope or
joke that Empire Strikes Back is
was-
one, then it would be Force Awakens, then it would be Rogue One,
Okay.
and then A New Hope.
You like Rogue One more than A New Hope?
Yeah, I
Jeez.
think so.
All right.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think it's one of those things I might actually like. I think they're kind of like equal, but I've only seen Rogue One and A New Hope once. I would like to
Fair
like
enough.
maybe go back and watch them both.
Fair
But
enough.
just off of like the feelings and emotions I had by the ending of those movies, I would say I probably like Rogue One more than A New Hope.
Fair enough.
But I can understand why that might be.
All right. But wrap ups. What do we got?
I got some questions for you.
Go for it. I'm
Okay?
ready.
You've entered the trivia stage, and all you have to do is guess numbers. You know what the
Okay.
numbers you're guessing?
Is it something to do with the production?
Nope. Is
Okay.
how many midichlorians does said character
Oh
has?
my God, you've got to be fucking kidding
I'm
me.
not
Can you at least
kidding.
give me a? Can you give me a benchmark of how many Anakin had? They said it in the movie.
Oh,
It's
did
like
they?
something. Yeah, they said like he has a midichlorian count of. I'm just gonna Google that really quick just so I can get a
Oh,
benchmark.
okay. That might be. I don't know if
It might be one of the questions.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
20,000. Okay, he has a midichlorian count of 20,000.
Okay. All right, that helps because I'm going to give you a list of names, and we're going to and you're just going to guess, and we'll tell you how close
Okay.
you are or not close you are.
Okay, all right, go
Yeah,
for
we
it.
won't spend too much time on it.
Okay,
First
lightning round.
one: how many midichlorians does Anakin have?
Anakin 20,000.
I mean, sure, but like, is a higher number?
Is it?
There's a
What?
specific number. Yes, it's not just 20,000.
Okay. Fucking-
I've gone across the interwebs to gather
Okay.
a bunch of like numbers, but this is like
Okay,
on average what people
20,
think.
22,307. I don't know.
Anakin has 27,800 midichlorians.
Jeez. All right.
And
God
after
damn.
his loss of his hand, it went down to 17,200. Riley. Okay, so you know the Star Wars Force Unleashed, right? Star
Yes.
Killer has 23,700. It goes down to 18,900 after his incident when Dark Sidious hit him with a ship. So this is what we're working with. All right. Okay. Next, how many midichlorians does Princess Leia have?
I'm gonna say she's a solid like 2,800.
Princess Leia has 24,240.
Is this some fucking expanded universe shit?
All right. How many midichlorians
God.
does Yoda have?
Okay, they said Anakin had more than Yoda in the Phantom Menace. I'm gonna say he has like fucking 25,000.
Yoda has 17,300.
No, you're fucking lying.
You know who has more than Yoda?
Leia.
Rey.
Ray has more than Yoda. Dude, you're fucking lying to me. I'm not one of those people who just like fucking despises Ray as a character, but come the fuck on. You can't do my man Yoda bad like that.
Riley, how many
Yeah.
midichlorians does Kit Fisto have?
Oh shit, Kit Fisto. Man, these are all like 10,000 plus. I'm gonna say Kit Fisto, like a solid 13,500.
Ooh, that's the closest you've been. He has 13,000 even.
Okay, damn.
How many midichlorians does Obi-Wan have?
I'm gonna say 20,000 even. No, wait. Yoda had 17.
Yeah.
Fuck. 16,700.
11,300.
Jesus. Obi-Wan, you suck.
Cheeks.
Wait. 11,000?
Yep.
So he has less midichlorians than Kit Fisto?
Yep.
That's fucking comedy right there. Holy fuck.
How many midichlorians does Obi-Wan. Han Solo have?
No way he has more than 10,000. You cannot tell me he has more than 10,000 midichlorians. It has to be like... It's gotta be like something like 3,000.
He has 6,500.
Okay.
Lower than 10,000. Lower than 10,000.
Okay.
You had it. How many midichlorians does Qui-Gon Jinn have?
Fucking 16,000.
Ooh, close. 15,200.
Okay. So more than Kit Fisto.
Yeah, he's
Goddamn
better than Kit Fisto. And lastly, how many midichlorians does Luke Skywalker have?
Oh god. I'm gonna guess you're pulling this from Expanded Universe, given what you just told me about fucking Leia. And if that's the case, I'm gonna guess he's like fucking off the chart. He's gonna be like 30,000 plus.
24,240. 23,316 after the loss of his hand.
24,003. Who was the one who had 24,200?
I think that was Leia. Yeah. No,
Okay,
him and
so
Leia have the same one.
Oh, they're twins. That
Yeah.
makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
But his goes
Alright,
down
I
after he
should guess
loses his
that.
hand.
Yeah.
Did
Yes.
did Leia's go down after she got ejected from a ship? Oh wait, I haven't seen those movies yet. Let me stop. That's it. That was it. Just
All right. That was fun. That was fun. I like doing mini games as part of these.
Yeah. You're gonna be really excited then for the next episode because I gotta put that. It's a big episode 10. We made the 10 episodes. This is our 9th episode.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I honestly can't remember what we're doing for 10. Are we keeping it a surprise?
Oh, 10 is gonna be a game. we're gonna play a game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck. That's good. All right.
Yeah. But episode 11, I think you should pull out a random movie because I did a random movie. And then after that, we can do Thor, and then I'll do another horror movie.
Okay.
And sequels. I think in that order.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll have to think of something then.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Anything else we got to do before we wrap it up here?
Nope, just socials, I think.
Socials.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Isolation on YouTube and Twitch, and that is it. I have yet to, I don't know if I mentioned it last time, I was considering going to Blue Sky, but I have not made that jump yet. I say jump. I'm not jumping from anywhere because I don't do the whole social media thing anywhere outside of YouTube.
Because it's Blue Sky.
True. But yeah, you know what? Given the current state of things, maybe it's best we, take a step back from social media for a little while.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah. So what about you? What do you got,
dude? I forgot to say the prequels is just a fucking ahead of his time because it's just talking about what we're living through now. Fuck.
I guess this is how democracy dies with thunderous applause.
Modern Day Age. All one word on YouTube. Modern Day Age with 2 E's on Twitter. Modern Day Age everywhere else. What else?
Rose Colored Boy.
Rose Colored .boy with 2 Y's on Instagram, and I think that's it. I think we're good. Any last statements you want to make about the prequels and or the Star Wars movies we have seen?
Man, I honestly envy the people who really like these movies because when I watch them, there's a small part of me that's taken back to my childhood where I would put this on the projector at my birthday. And all my
Wow.
friends would watch it together.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, I remember these movies were a big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
I saw them a lot more than the originals because the originals we didn't own. We could have, but we just didn't. So we only watched the originals when they came on TV or when we got them from the video store. But these are the ones we owned and we watched all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to have a bigger part of me that's taken back. Maybe then I would enjoy Star Wars as a whole a lot more. But as it stands, I've talked about it back in our original trilogy bit, but Star Wars and me we've been taking a break for a while, and it was nice to come back and revisit these just for the memes and the fun of watching it with someone who's never seen it before. But
Right.
it'll be interesting to see how the sequels hold up now that we're several years past their initial release.
Yeah. I think for me, I think yeah, not obviously excluding the sequels, but I think had I grown up like really focusing on Star Wars, I probably would. I've said this before. I probably would definitely be into it. I think I would have looked back on these movies with like maybe I think I might have had some guilty pleasure. I think I would have been like, oh, but Riley, but this is so cool. I can't really do that now, knowing that like I like movies. And these aren't that great movies, like.
Well, I think they can still be a guilty pleasure in that vein. I mean, people
but
talk about The Room, but that's like the biggest guilty pleasure movie of them all. Like,
true.
You can enjoy something for being bad, and that's kind of where I'm at with these. Like, I just enjoy watching these bad line reads and the just ridiculous tangled up plot.
That's why I like Attack of the Clones. I think Attack of the Clones is like the real highlight of these three movies, but the other two movies are kind of boring. Like, I can only do so much with boring. I know you say Attack of the Clones is like boring, but I got a really good laugh out of it. So I think that's much more I can say about fucking Phantom Menace. Yeah, and then obviously the original trilogy, they're a pretty good trilogy. I kind of wish, maybe not. I don't wish this. I was gonna say I kind of wish it kind of stopped there, but that's not true. I think, like I said, I think Star Wars has a really good foundation. I think the fantasy aspect of Star Wars is really cool, and they have a lot of world stuff they could really work with. And it's just that it kind of sucks that the more that Star Wars goes on, the more that it kind of feels like is just like losing whatever like luster it had before. But that could also be said about the MCU. So
yeah, I think the problem with Star Wars is that no one's willing to take chances of trying new things with Star Wars. They're just so set in their ways of like just being entrenched in the past, making these shows about characters people recognize and stories that we're all familiar with. When it's like the best thing about I think the best thing you could do with a long run franchise like this is just like try new things, That was something that, say what you will about phases 4 and 5 of the MCU, but my favorite parts of those was like seeing them actually do new things for once, after these long, very consistent like story arcs of these movies that are all kind of they're really good, but they're formulaic to a point. Just seeing like new stuff like WandaVision just being so refreshing as the thing that you've never seen from this franchise before. I think that's what Star Wars really needs. It's just that's what they kind of got. Apparently, I didn't actually watch it yet, but with something like Andor, it's just like really different,
Yep. And
that's what it needs.
And for all the shit that Acolyte gets, I'm only going to speak on that because that's what I've seen. There's some, like I said, there's some interesting things in there too. Some things that I do think is very different. Just briefly, because I know we're like kind of pushing 3 hours. Holy fuck. But yeah, like the whole idea of like these witches who are just out in the universe creating life out of the Force, not because they're evil, not because they're the Sith, not because they're Jedis, just because that's their ritual is such a cool idea. It's sad that it just kind of leads to nothing really, or it's not executed very well, I should say. But like stuff like that is the stuff I like Riley said, I'm looking for in Star Wars fantasy. And like same thing for the MCU when they do new shit. I actually think that the issue with the MCU now is everything they do is like really safe. Like it's like they're trying to revert back to like phase 1 movies. And it's like you can't be doing that now. Like
it's that feeling you got from Brave New World.
Yes, it's a very, very fine
Cool.
movie.
But that's the worst thing it could be.
Yes. What if I told you, Riley? It is
yeah.
both a Winter Soldier sequel and a Hulk sequel.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah. It's fine. It's whatever.
All right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye, guys.
Alrighty. Bye bye.